Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Live Show Week 4 Review Edition. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz. It is a great morning to be great at this point. And again, it's a great day to go ahead and just, get through everything that just went down in a wild Week 4. Of course, as always, I'm joined by the one, the only, Dwain, the Rock McFarland. And Dwain, we just, really witnessed one of the better ties. I remember one of the only ties I really kind of remember out here. So, man, can we have Dak and Jordan Love fist fight at the 50-yard line or something? I don't want a game ending in a tie.
I'm with you. Can we ban ties? Right there along next to your rule to try to ban kickers in fantasy. Can we ban ties in real life? I had multiple friends that were from the Wisconsin area that were at the game, but they live in Dallas now that I used to work with. So I was getting text messages from them the whole time. So at least they didn't get to walk away with a victory. That's really the only thing I have, Ian. And my parlay hit. I just needed the Micah Parsons sack. And we got it. I don't know if that was really a sack. I mean, Dak might have been a little past the line of scrimmage. I'm not going to argue with it, though.
Get that money in the account and just run. Take the money and run. Shout out to the Steve Miller Band. As always, though, guys, going to be going through all the action from Thursday all the way up into Sunday night, going over utilization, takeaways, maybe some guys we should be selling high on, buying low on, all that and much, much more. So accordingly, Dwain, let's get after it. Going all the way back to seemingly a decade ago, Thursday Night Football, the Seahawks took down the Cardinals 23-20. Seattle covered as 1.5-point faves. The undercast just by a hair at 43.5. It was a spirited second half, really just fourth quarter comeback from Kyler Murray and company. The Cardinals were down 20-6 early in the fourth, wound up again getting that walk-off field goal from the Seahawks, though. So starting off with the Seahawks, another just really nice performance from Sam Darnold, 242 and a touchdown through the air. Very, very efficient and just do some absolute dimes to Jackson Smith and Najigba down the stretch. So we didn't get the huge game from JSN like we've seen throughout a lot of this year, just 79 yards. But again, just watching him is very clear that this dude is taking his game to another level. Very much deserving of upside wide receiver one treatment in fantasy. And honestly, at this point, being considered one of the best real life threats in the entire game. That said, Dwain, the real big, talking point here in Fantasyland was this distribution of touches between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. What did the utilization tell us?
Yeah, nothing to say on the receivers. Everything's about the running back room. And it was back to what no one wants to hear, a 1A, 1B rotation between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Walker ends up with 12 fantasy points on the night. Charbonnet gets 12.4 fantasy points. So slight edge to Walker this time in snaps, 52% to 45%. Obviously, Charbonnet coming off the foot injury, but really close between the two guys. 58% of the rushing attempts did go to Walker versus 42% for Charbonnet. Routes were really close, 39% to Walker, 42% to Charbonnet. Both had 8% target share, but it was Charbonnet soaking up the short down and distance work, 63% of that. He got 100% of the snaps inside the 5-yard line, 78% of the long down and distance, and he had 100% of the 2-minute offense. So it's just, man, like if we could have one of those roles go to Kenneth Walker or something, it's just like they are literally splitting this backfield in a way that, like, fine, you can play them both as running back threes, and you're just hoping you get a random 2-touchdown spike game, but it's really hard to project them as anything more than running back threes. The one thing really working in their favor continues just to be the fact that the Seahawks want to run the football. They threw the ball 26 times in this game, ran the ball 35 times, and they are now 3-1, those Seattle Seahawks. So, yep, running back 3 status remaining, continuing on, for both backs in Seattle.
Charbonnet almost did have a multi-touchdown game, unfortunately. The second one was called back on a fairly iffy holding call on JSN, if I do say so myself. So, Dwain, I will say the good news here is that the Seahawks as a team and as an offense, as you kind of referenced, have exceeded expectations in the preseason. Obviously, with Darnold playing great. And honestly, the offensive line, I mean, they're 22nd in terms of RB rush yards before contact per carry. Not exactly, just a complete trash, group over there. So, still getting 15 to 20 combined carries and targets per week for Kenneth Walker. We can live with that. Again, not going to be ranking him inside the top 10, but still someone that, again, I think can piece together some big performances here as a low-end RB2, particularly once we start getting into some buys. So going to be the Seahawks taking on Vita Vea and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week. So not exactly the matchup we should be targeting, but again, good stuff overall from the Sam Darnold-led Seahawks. Over with the Cardinals, again, a situation, Dwain, where really there was one key talking point coming out of it. Actually, a little more than that, I should say. We had two. First of which being Marvin Harrison Jr., man, one of the worst first halves in recent memory. You could argue both both interceptions, from Kyler Murray, I should say, were his fault. One went right off of Marv's hands. Other one, it's kind of a mix of did he quit on the route or did he think Kyler was starting to break off into a scramble drill? I think Kurt Warner actually has some good thoughts on that the next day. So at least one was his fault. That said, did come back strong in the second half, made a couple real nice contested catches, including a touchdown. So really, Dwain, again, we've just seen Marv be this boomer bust wide receiver 3. Dare we even say wide receiver 4 during the first 20 or so games of his career? Again, scored, ended up putting together a decent enough performance, but not exactly a situation where I think we can feel great about the potential for him to start living up to that last name and, join the wide receiver 2 ranks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest positive is his negative, which is 2 weeks in a row. Like, it could have been so much bigger. I mean, if Marv makes the plays that we think he should be making, then we would be a little bit happier about this. I mean, a 26% target share in this one, but to your point, yeah, he's at a 21% target share over his first 20 games. That's a strong wide receiver 2. Or a low end wide receiver 2 if he's in a good offense. The one challenge here, though, Ian, is if we look at Kyler Murray now on the season, averaging 186 passing yards per game. Come on. And now part of that's on Marv because there's yards being left on the field. So, I mean, it's kind of, the chicken or the egg kind of thing going on here. But, we still have Kyler come out and give you 18 fantasy points in this one, but only averaging 15.6 for the season. And we've all been edging him down our ranks every week, me, you, and Friedman and the rest of the crew. And it's just because, man, even though he gives you 41 rushing yards in this game, and that's really great, the ceiling has just been so terrible on the passing game so far this season. Now, maybe Kyler can get that going, but until we see it, I just don't see how we rank him as something more. Now, when the bye weeks get here, obviously, and that starts this week, that'll change things a little bit. But it's just hard to get super excited about Kyler right now because, honestly, McBride's all underneath stuff. You need Marv making the big plays down the field to really unlock Kyler, and that's just not happening.
Everything's underneath, man. And maybe that's more on Drew Petzing than Kyler, but at the end of the day, man, 5.7 yard average target depth. Only Aaron freaking Rodgers has been lower this season so far. So also took 6 sacks out there. Again, got them back in the game, had 41 rushing yards, so it wasn't all bad from the dude. But man, I read the numbers before the game, Dwain, and the Cardinals offense is the only group in the NFL that has targeted its wide receivers on under 40% of its total pass attempts. So it really is just dinking and dunking to the running backs and tight ends all game long. Always going to be a bit of a cap ceiling for, again, the involved quarterbacks and wide receivers in that case. That said, you would think that there should be, again, accordingly, more meat on the bone for those running backs, and there were. The problem was when we didn't see all of it go to Trey Benson like we wanted to. Amari DiMercato, from the looks of it, got that pass down roll that he had back in 2024, but wasn't getting so far in 2025. Is that what wound up happening, Dwayne?
Yeah, 93% of the long down and distance and 94% of the 2-minute offense went to DiMercato, and he got that touchdown late in the game in the 2-minute drill. So, yeah, we were hoping Benson would be in a more of a full-time role. It was still good. I mean, he had 53% of the snaps, the bigger part, 67% of the rushing attempts. So, for now, though, I think we've got to look at Benson as being more along the lines of a Quinshon Judkins, not going to be out there on passing downs, going to get the majority of the rushing work. But I still think it's a positive that Benson did show that gear in his game earlier in the year. So I think there's still a chance, right, that as this season goes on, we see a little bit more of him in the passing down work. Scored 10.4 fantasy points in this one, so people weren't crazy about it. Didn't completely kill you. He still had a 13% target share, though. So, I mean, they're targeting, to your point, they dink and dunk so much. He's getting his targets on first and second down. So 13% is really healthy. The short yardage stuff was still there for him. So we've got to downgrade him a little bit until we see him, getting that pass down work. But still, if you grab Benson off the waiver wire, you should still be pretty happy about it. You've got a running back too in fantasy the rest of the way.
Thought there was a chance it could be that 90% plus snap, never leave the field sort of guy. Didn't quite get that, but I'm with you. Still going to fall nicely in the RB2 ranks more weeks than not. Cardinals will be taking on the Tennessee Titans next week at home. Certainly going to be a nice, I'm sure, trendy pick there in Survivor Land. Moving on to the Irish Sunday morning kickoff, Dwayne. We had the Steelers take down the Vikings 24-21. Shout out to Pittsburgh for winning outright as a 2.5-point dog. We did have the over hit too at 41. Steelers were up 24-6 in the beginning of the fourth quarter. I texted my father-in-law and said, that's awesome that you got to start Sunday with a win. And man, oh man, did I almost fall flat on my face. But Aaron Rodgers and company wound up holding them off. Dwayne, the Steelers now, they're going to be entering their bye week. They're 3-1, okay? Now, nothing's guaranteed in the NFL. I fully get that. But they have 4 games left, okay, against the Bengals and Browns. They're probably going to be favored in all of those games. And then 2 winnable late-season matchups against the Dolphins and Bears. Mike Tomlin, 9-8, staring right down the barrel, baby. We are so back. Cannot wait to see them again get blown out in the wild card round against a team with a real quarterback. That said, Aaron Rodgers did certainly go out there and do his thing. Had a very funny kind of viral moment where he took a hit off of smelling salt and then to rip one down to see the DK Metcalf, who took off for an 80-plus yard touchdown, 126 big ones, and that score from Metcalf on the day. And that was good to see, Dwain. Again, only 22 pass attempts from Aaron Rodgers, but we've kind of been waiting on this big-time DK Metcalf game. And yeah, it's going to be a run-first offense, but at least for 1 week, man, we got it. And boy, has Metcalf looked good after the catch this year.
Yeah, Rodgers had 200 passing yards a day. He's averaging 197 on the season. But a couple of them have been really efficient games where they kind of got out to these leads, and this is just the way the game script worked out. I mean, Rodgers did average 9.1 yards per attempt today. If you look at Metcalf, 23% target share on the day on his way to 126 yards. You mentioned the 80-yard touchdown. The thing that I noticed the most, and when we get to watch the island games, we're not having to try to watch multiple games at one time. You know, you can really focus on these things before going back and watching the film later in the week, but it's just getting him on these quick slants. That was obviously what the touchdown was on, but the patented back shoulder, sideline throw that we used to see so many times with many other receivers, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams. I mean, you can go down the list. If they can kind of get that going, I feel like if this were a game that really needed them to throw more, like we would have had a bigger day for Metcalf. I mean, he basically did all that in the first half. I think he had 1 target and 1 catch in the second half based on the way the game script. So I think this is positive for Metcalf, 23.6 PPR points on the day. We don't ever expect him to be like a 30% target share guy, but man, maybe could we get to 25? There's no one else here, man. There's no one. Calvin Austin got hurt. He hurt his shoulder in the game. He left in a sling. Darnell Washington led the tight ends and routes today at 64% because that's Arthur Smith to a freaking team, man.
Of course.
Jonnu had 40%, Freiermuth had 32%, and Darnell Washington had 64%. So they need another receiver, to step up. But hey, for Metcalf, feels like it could just funnel through him.
Again, we'll see what happens with that Austin injury. But I'm happy you brought up the tight end usage because I would have thought this would have been a great game for Jonnu Smith to do his thing with Jaylen Warren, obviously ruled out. Of course, Arthur Smith going to Arthur Smith. But let's talk about that running back room, Dwayne, because unfortunately Warren did pop up late in the week with that knee injury, wound up not being comfortable enough to suit up in this one. So we don't have any real reason to believe it's going to be a super long-term injury. Again, the Steelers do have a week 5 bye to hopefully get right. But man, at least for 1 week, it was the Kenneth Gainwell show. More than made the most out of his opportunities, wound up racking up 99 yards rushing and 2 scores, also 35 yards receiving. Almost had a third touchdown, but got tackled at the 1 yard line when they tried to go for it, I think on 4th and 3. And again, just couldn't quite get in there. So 7 missed tackles for us. He looks good out there, Dwayne. As much as everyone wants Caleb Johnson, all these rookies to become a thing, man, Kenneth Gainwell is the clear-cut number 2 RB in Pittsburgh.
That's what this told me. Caleb Johnson, just, take up a seat, man. Because Gainwell played so good today, and he can do a lot of the things that really Jaylen Warren can do. They're so interchangeable between one another. What's so interesting is, I put out a tweet, I think it was on Saturday, looking at our Xfinity best projections and our projection model guys. We worked a lot this offseason, got the mathematicians and the data scientists working on this stuff behind the scenes. And, the guy I called out was Jaylen Warren. I was like, hey, man, the projection model loves this dude this week, looking at the role that he's taken over the last couple of games, and it had him at 30.8 fantasy points. Well, just interchange Kenneth Gainwell. He scored 31.4 fantasy points today. So the model was right. We had the wrong name. But man, 77% of the snaps, 73% of the rushing attempts, 19 carries on the day, 100% of the work inside the 5, 72% route. And dude, 27% target share for Gainwell, which we've always known Gainwell is a really good receiver out of the backfield. What impresses me the most, man, is just how well he's running the ball. So yeah, the model had it. We just had the wrong name. And I guess I should have just moved Gainwell that far up the ranks. I didn't have the guts to move him that far, Ian. I had him more in that high-end running back 3 territory. I was wrong. KJ, real quick, 6 carries, 22 yards, 21% of the snaps, 23% of the attempts. And man, in a game, really where you would think they would give him more and let him salt it away. So I don't even consider what he did that positive, considering how far, the Steelers were ahead in this game. It got close at the end, but you would think KJ would get even more work than that, and he did not. So just, man, once Warren's back, KJ is just in real trouble.
Sometimes we see those post-bye rookie bumps, but again, just based on what we've seen on field, really no reason to believe that will be coming. So again, congrats to the Steelers, 3-1 going into their bye. We'll see how they can keep on keeping on after that. Over with the Vikings, Dwain, Carson Wentz wound up getting up to 350 yards and 2 touchdowns by the time everything was said and done. That said, still did see plenty of the bad version of Wentz too. 2 interceptions, also took 6 sacks out there. That said, he did exist long enough to get that football to Justin Jefferson, especially in the first half. Buck 26. Caught 10 of 11 targets out there. Also found a returning Jordan Addison, 114 yards on 8 targets. Probably should have had a touchdown. There was a complete busted coverage where he ended up catching the ball with no one near him. He went 81 yards all the way to the 1-yard line where he got hawked by, I believe it was even a linebacker. So 2 drops from Addison. I question how many sprints he was doing during his time off, Dwain, but did we at least see Addison back in a full-time role as the Robin to Jefferson's Batman?
We did see Addison back in a full-time role. He had 8 targets today, 4 receptions, 114 yards, but 15.4 PPR points, 98% of the routes, Ian. 19% targets, basically right where the man lives, somewhere between like 19 and 20%. But yeah, came up with the big plays down the field. And man, just they're more willing to throw the ball with Wentz in these games. If you really look at like, even for like Justin Jefferson, right? He's got 2 games with McCarthy, 12.9 fantasy points per game, 32% of the targets, 85 air yards per game. With Wentz, 90 air yards per game, 27% targets, but it comes out to 9 because they're willing to throw the ball more with Wentz. And people will be like, oh, it was the game script today. No, it's drop back rate over expected, guys. We took all that into account. And remember, last week, the Vikings blew out the other team. So you really have one game where they were blowing someone out, which was the Bengals. And then you have this game where they were getting blown out in the first half of the game. So they're just more willing to throw the ball with Wentz. They did get Christian Darrisaw back, but they lost their center during the game. Their backup, I think even their backup tackle was injured. They've got a lot. They had the starting right tackle and the backup right tackle, I believe, were both out of this game. So just a lot of injuries for the Vikings offense on the offensive line, but they're still willing to throw the ball more with Wentz. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, man, when JJ McCarthy's ready to come back. I'm not saying Wentz is like winning the NFC North or anything for the Vikings, but for fantasy purposes, we have seen them a little bit more willing to pass the ball around the yard with Mr. Wentz under center.
It was funny kind of just checking on Twitter throughout the first part of this game. And like once let him down to a field goal on the first drive and looked fine enough. And just the amount of like, oh my gosh, is McCarthy ever going to get his job back? Overreactions, people. Chill out. It has only been 8 quarters for, again, the first round Michigan man. So I still do firmly think that it will be McCarthy's job the second he is healthy enough to suit up. I guess we shall see. Only other point, Dwain, would be Jordan Mason did lose some work to Xavier Scott. I'm not too concerned. Again, we would love if all of our fantasy running backs had these 90% snap rates and never left the field, but we still had 19 touches for Mason out there. He again got stuffed at the 2-yard line, I believe, on one of those. I was just happy he didn't lose that fumble early on, man, because it looked like that was going to be negative -2 points. Ended up touching the ball as he was sitting out of bounds, though. So again, more of a bell cow role as opposed to a complete 3-down workhorse role, but still a situation where Jordan Mason, man, just again a few yards away from falling into the end zone. Sometimes that can make or break the difference between, again, a kind of forgettable RB3 week and a sort of upside RB2 week that we're probably still going to be treating him as.
Yeah, I mean, and it protects you from game scripts, like this, because you just if he gets like 3 or 4 of the receptions that Xavier Scott got, right, you get 15 fantasy points instead of 10, and that's really the difference we're talking about here. But to your point, he had 89% of the rushing attempts, so like. Yeah, as far as the early down work, the carries, it is a bell cow situation right now for Mason until we get Aaron Jones back. But it was Xavier Scott coming on to get the 43% route participation, 19% target share, had a touchdown reception as well. I mean, look pretty good. So it looks like the Vikings are going to let him play really more of that Aaron Jones role. Not quite the full role that Aaron Jones had, but at least the passing down stuff that Aaron Jones was getting. So, yeah, not too worried about Mason. We would like to get the receptions, but hey, if you're going to get like 90% of the rushing attempts, we can roll with that.
Final note, TJ Hawkinson, you are crazy. Tried to hurdle 3 dudes in the middle of the field on like one of the last plays of the game. I guess he finished just 1 yard under his receiving line. So I apologize to anyone if he didn't get that bet, but just, rest assured that TJ Hawkinson certainly did try. So Vikings are going to be hanging out in Europe. They are facing the Cleveland Browns in London next week, Dwain. So we got another early wake up one. Carson Wentz versus Joe Flacco. That's what you guys get for losing the Revolutionary War. The Falcons took down the Commanders 34-27. ATL covered as 2.5-point faves. The overcast here at 43.5. Much better performance from Michael Penix in this entire passing game as they head into their week 5 bye. So again, much more in rhythm. We actually had him gunslinging again, Dwain, 10.5 yard average target depth. That was one of our talking points last week about how much of a dink and dunk offense this had become. Maybe it was as simple as firing the wide receiver coach and certainly seeing the light a fire under Drake London's, but 110 yards and a touchdown, catching 8 of 10 targets. Might be leaned on more than ever too, man, because Darnell Mooney unfortunately suffered a hamstring injury. So again, they have a bye coming up, so it's not a situation where we need to go too crazy with the projections. But yeah, Drake London still confirmed very good at football.
Yeah, 33% target share now on Drake London's career when Michael Penix is under center. So, like, we're just going to take that. Drake London's good. Penix looked good in this game. We're probably going to have some ups and downs. You know, Penix is averaging 229 passing yards per game, though. Like, I would kill for that right now in Carolina with freaking Bryce Young, like to Tet McMillan. So, yeah, I think overall, like, we're not in a place where, like, we trust it every single week. But, I mean, you're starting Drake London every week, and you know you can get these kind of performances. When you get the bad version of Penix, you know, you're looking more at a wide receiver 3 on those games. But this is the reminder that you do get the big-time wide receiver 1 upside with Drake London.
Kyle Pitts continuing to really look good with his opportunities, man. Caught all 5 of his targets for 70 yards and a touchdown. He would also get a bump again if Mooney is going to be missing any time. Otherwise, yeah, good reminder that the Falcons have not one, but 2 very good running backs. I know Bijan is the better one. He might be the best running back in the entire world at this point, but Tyler Algier, credit to him, had a pretty cool 19-yard touchdown truck stick run. Got 69 yards after contact, Dwayne, despite only having 51 rushing yards. I'm not used to seeing that big of a discrepancy. Usually, you know, they're a few yards over. So that was cool. 7 missed tackles forced on the week. That said, Bijan does lead the NFL with 27 missed tackles forced on the season. He had 106 receiving yards, 75 rushing yards. There was a couple times, remember, 35-year-old Bobby Wagner got matched up with them in coverage. And I just think Bobby was kind of wondering what the heck he was still doing on a football field in those situations. So again, Dwayne, just 4 weeks and everything, Bijan could slow down, but he is on pace for 1,335 rushing yards and 1,148 receiving yards. He would join CMC, Marshall Faulk, and Roger Craig as the only running backs to go 1K and 1K rushing and receiving. If we had to redraft right now, man, Bijan Robinson, probably the safe 101.
Yeah. I mean, 22.1 fantasy points per game, getting 54% of the attempts, but he's getting the 18% target share in the receiving game. He's the featured number 2 really right now. I mean, Kyle Pitts is the 3rd option behind Drake London, and just watching Bijan Robinson, man, like just the little subtle moves and things he makes, like him and Bucky Irving, like just when I'm watching the way they set up defenders, like look like 2 of the best backs in the NFL right now. But obviously when you can get out there and get that kind of target share, I will be rooting for a 1K season from Mr. Bijan. You mentioned Algier. He got the touchdown today. I pulled a Hartitz heater, and I went 1 week early on the sicko call for Algier last week in week 3. Comes through with the touchdown today, gives you 11.1 fantasy points. Man, he's got 44% of the rushing attempts today, 36% on the season. It's not like he's going to have a ton of standalone value, but, you know, once we get past, once you're in a situation where you might need him for a bye week, like, I mean, hey, like you can put him in there. Like he's probably going to be in our running back 3 ranks in some of these weeks where we've got the heavy buys.
And a good reminder, guys, when we have these buys coming, you're going to start seeing guys like Tyler Algier become a little bit more available on the waiver wire than you might have noticed here over the first 4 weeks. Again, cannot overstate how high his handcuff upside really is. We'll be on the cover of every single waiver wire article. So if you do have that extra bench spot, really would love to have guys like Tyler Algier, Blake Corum, amongst others. Over with the Commanders, when again, some highlights, the fact they scored 27 points with no Jaden Daniels, with no Terry McLaurin, I do think is pretty respectable in its own right. Marcus Mariota did throw 2 touchdowns on the day. 1 to Deebo Samuel, which was just awesome seeing him win out wide. It really has been impressive to me all season long how Deebo's been winning. Really has more of a pure wide receiver than I think we've seen. Not that he couldn't do it in San Fran, but they didn't really need him to. So all the credit in the world there. Also got another touchdown to Luke McCaffrey out there, and he had a cool kick return. So kudos to them. But again, just a situation, Dwayne, where we want Jaden Daniels to get healthy. Unfortunately, this backfield still looks like a muddled 3-headed mess, and Deebo Samuel otherwise very good at football. So you got anything big here you want to go on?
Nope. Deebo, 20.1 fantasy points per game, guys. 97% route participation, has a 25% target. Or sorry, that was 20.1 PPR points today, but for the season, 16.3 fantasy points per game with a 24% target share. Continues to work from the slot 70% of the time. He just gets a lot of mismatches, man. Watching Deebo, you can tell he's not what he was 3 years ago, Ian, but it's still pretty good. And in this offense, we'll eventually get Terry McLaurin back. Like that's going to be a thing. But no, nothing else here on the receivers. Running back room, yeah, just a gross three-way split again. Like this is bad. 39% of the snaps to Rodriguez, 33% to Bill, and 31% to McWeapon.
And hey, as much as we would love to sit here and say Bill Crosby-Merritt's going to be a future Hall of Famer, feed him the freaking football, Chris Rodriguez keeps making the most out of his opportunities, man. He had another cool 48-yard run. Again, he's busted a couple big ones so far this year. So Commanders are going to be at the Chargers next week. Here's to hoping, again, Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin are healthy enough to suit up for that one. Speaking of those Chargers, they lost the New York Football Giants 21-18. Giants were 6.5-point dogs, got that outright win in the first career start of the Jackson Dart era under Dick Cash of 43.5. So shout out to Jackson Dart. Only 111 passing yards, but man, Dwain, this dude can run 54 yards on the ground, ran in for a score on his first drive, hit a cool little dance in the end zone. Got a tweet from Eli Manning saying that they all learned how to do that at Ole Miss, which was funny. Had another 39-yard scramble that was nullified on a hold. This dude just needs, can you take care of yourself a little bit, Jackson? I think he's been hanging out with Cam Scatterby a little bit too much, Dwain, because again, he had to get checked for the concussion after the long scramble run. There was other times where he was just, again, there's a 3rd-and-1 conversion near the goal line where you like bounce off two guys. It's sweet. I enjoy it. It's fun to watch, but man, just take care of yourself. Same goes for Scatterby. So really good stuff from Dart, Dwain. And again, it's a situation where kind of that dual threat upside that made him your sicko star of the week and made us very excited about his future was fully on display. Of course, buried the lead.
Yeah.
Can't have nice things. Malik Neighbors, by all accounts, torn ACL. Done for the season. We cannot have nice things, Dwain. That is absolutely horrific, and it does, unfortunately, very much put a damper on the overall expectations for Dart and this offense.
Yeah, I mean, look, Daboll wants to feature Dart as a runner. 18% of the design rushing attempts today. Like that's up in like the top numbers. Like that's up there in the Jalen Hurts kind of category, Justin Fields. So we'll see if they continue to do that. But then an 11% scramble rate. The average for an NFL starting quarterback is 6%. So he nearly doubled that. You talked about the other 45-yarder that got called back. He had 45 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown today on his 10 attempts. So even with Neighbors out, like I think he's a mid-range QB too. But if we had Neighbors, we would be talking about, I mean, Dart came out as QB 13 in the rest of season projections last week when I put him in as the starter. And I didn't give him near this big of a rushing workload, but I was assuming he was also going to have Malik Neighbors. And I didn't go crazy. I had him at like 200 passing yards per game. You know, the wet blanket Freeman, I think, had him at like 40 yards passing per game. So I think he's mid-range, QB2. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe they can get an offense with designed around him where he does just kind of spread it out across all these guys. Because, I mean, we'll talk about the receivers in a second, but like they don't have like a clear alpha at this point. Like it's going to have to be more of a spread it around kind of game, in my opinion.
100%. So again, we have heard from Rapshi and Tom Pelissero that it is expected to be a torn ACL for Neighbors. I am expecting the Giants to go ahead and confirm that on Monday. So just absolutely sucks. Again, get better. And you freaking injury gods, man. Tired of your BS. Before we get to the wide receivers, though, Dwayne did want to give a shout out to Cam Scatterby. Freaking 27 total touches. Unfortunately, got tackled at the 1-yard line twice on the same drive. Could not quite, again, punch it across the goal line. Otherwise, would have been an even bigger day out there for, again, the Arizona State product. So did ram in a 2-point conversion. So love seeing that. But man, Dwayne, no Devin Singletary to really worry about here. This was fully the Cam Scatterby show. And similar to Cleveland, similar to Arizona, I guess you could say, like, we're not going to be dealing with Giants offenses where we can be expecting 30 plus points to be scored. But hey, at the end of the day, man, we love that volume, and Scatterby showing you can make plenty of it, particularly as a receiver. So, I mean, this week, I think he was coming in as our consensus RB15, RB16 or so. I'm not going to even see him moving up a few spots past that, man, particularly once we get these bye weeks rolling. Wouldn't be surprising at all to see him firmly on that RB1 borderline.
Yeah, Quinshon Judkins is a better player than Scatterby, but Scatterby's getting the route participation, which is what matters in fantasy, and it protects him from bad game scripts. This game was a game where they were leading, but 67% route participation today and a 10% target share, and he's going to get more than that. Like, Scatterby's probably going to have a 15% target share, man, when Malik Neighbors out. Like, it's coming. The Giants aren't going to be in these leading games, so yeah, I think he's a borderline running back one as long as Tyrone Tracy's out. Devin Singletary only played 24% of the snaps today. 75% went to Scatterby. And you already mentioned the 27 opportunities that he had between his attempts and his targets. Well, he caught both of his targets. So yeah, Scattaboo, man, right there, borderline, running back 1. I mean, we'll make him more of a high-end running back 2 just because we don't love his offense, but very insulated from bad game scripts. Very, very prolific collegiate receiver out of the backfield, and it's showing up at the NFL level.
He's going to be getting a lot of targets on a weekly basis, as well Wan'Dale Robinson, and I guess Darius Slayton as well, Dwayne. So Theo Johnson is a tight end. He actually caught a shovel pass for a touchdown as well. You would like to think the heavy majority of targets are going to be centered around those 4 guys. Again, Wan'Dale has shown the ability to work more so down the field. Obviously, only have to go back to week 2 to see the last time he boomed in a meaningful way. Also firmly aware that Darius Slayton has that, club in his bag as well. So look, I think both these guys are going to impress and be in that flex conversation. That said, can we comfortably say either is going to be this consistent top 36 option? No, I would not say that. Again, Jackson Dart, impressive today. It was his first start. I get it. Did take 5 sacks and threw for 111 yards, Dwayne. This is still a very low ceiling passing game, particularly so without your number 1 target and best player now off the field.
Yeah, I mean, Wando had a 25% target share today, but it was all like the scheme stuff again. He had a -1 average depth of target today. 100% route participation, so dude wasn't leaving the field. So, I mean, I think he's their next best playmaker underneath an intermediate. You mentioned Slayton, more of a, I don't know, like more of a Romeo Dobbs kind of archetype, like not quite the same like contested catch guy, but it's going to work more down the field. Not quite as good like finding spots in the zone coverage, but we've seen him come through for stretches before. So I'm with you. I think you're probably talking more wide receiver 5, 4, wide receiver 5 territory, depending on matchups and things like that for these guys. And maybe we get lucky and we decide that Wan'Dale, is a wide receiver 3 or Slayton is a wide receiver 3. Certainly could get into those conversations when we get the heavy bye weeks going, but neither one, like Wan'Dale's the most proven as far as a target earner. So like, I think we have to make like, he's the favorite here. Slayton has never really been a high-end target earner, but he can hit the big plays down the field. He had that 16.5 average depth of target today, 54% of the team's air yards. So could see him coming through with some of the big plays. So yeah, I think wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 territory. Probably have Wan'Dale in the wide receiver 4 conversation next week and Slayton more in that wide receiver 5, but could easily see them flipping back and forth.
I think that is well put, my friend. Let's talk about the Chargers. Only had a little bit over 24 minutes of time of possession. So, perhaps explains a little bit some of the lower counting numbers for Justin Herbert. Just 203 passing yards. I will say the 2 interceptions. One of them was an incredible play by big man Dexter Lawrence. Tipped it and grabbed at the line. The second interception basically featured Lab McConkey fall down as he was being targeted. So wouldn't exactly put those on him. Also was under all kinds of pressure, Dwayne, because now we can really not have nice things because Herbert is without his top 2 tackles. Sean Slater obviously been out for the season, but now left tackle Joe Alt apparently dealing with a high ankle sprain. So the x-rays came back negative, which is good, but man, certainly could be something that keeps him out for an extended period of time. Got to see again what that could look like today with a 45.5% pressure rate. That was the second highest on the week. So look, not every single defense has a pass rush as deep as the Giants and everything, but man, Dwayne, just again sucks to see the Chargers on dealing with one unfortunate injury really after another. That said, the one man really benefiting from all this still is Omarion Hampton out there, $128 on the ground in a touchdown, also chipped in 37 receiving yards. Looking like a beast out there, man. 4-6 missed tackles, and he had a 54-yard touchdown where they just gave him a crease and he showed off the wheels. Like the fact that God does make humans as big as him that can run that fast, scary, scary dude. And I am very happy to be retired, Dwayne, and not ever having to even imagined squaring up with that dude in the hole.
Yeah, 27.5 fantasy points today for Omarion Hampton on a game where we didn't have that many snaps, to your point, for the Chargers. And they threw the ball on 41 plays and ran the ball on 13. Well, luckily Hampton got 12 of those attempts. The other one was a Justin Herbert scramble. So all the design rushing attempts went through Mr. Hampton today. We've got 3 games now, Ian, where we either had Najee Harris limited week 1 with the eye injury, and then in week 3 when he got hurt, and then week 4 today, we did not have Najee across those 3 games. Remember, guys, that includes the dud that everyone wanted to freak the out about in week 1 against the Chiefs. He's averaging 20.2 fantasy points per game, 82% snap share, 81% rushing attempts, 100% of the carries inside the 5, 66% route participation with a 12% target share, 100% of the 2-minute offense across those 3 games. Like, you've heard everything you need to hear. I mean, Omari Hampton's an absolute stud, like as far as his workload, goes. Haskins and Vidal were like non-factors today, like just barely even sniffed the field. So obviously you can't load Hampton up that heavy the whole season. Like somebody's going to have to rotate in a little bit, guys. But I mean, honestly, he's in a role very similar to Jonathan Taylor. I mean, that's just where we're at right now with Omari and Hampton. So, and I would think, Ian, with, Joe Alt probably out a few weeks, I would guess. Who knows how these guys do. Playing tackle with a high ankle sprain is a little different than trying to do it as a guard. So I would think you would want to run the ball a little bit more to protect Herbert. Like the Chargers might need to chill just a little, like on the pass rate over expected stuff.
Whether you want to rank Hampton RB6 next week, RB8, RB9, you need to have him in your starting lineup of all shapes and sizes. I challenge any of you listening out there to show me a lineup where Hampton should not be starting. You should feel pretty freaking great about having him on your team at the moment. That said, Dwayne, we cannot share that same sentiment for a man that many of us spent an early round pick on. Ladd McConkey, man, just 11 scoreless yards. He had 2 drive-killing drops on third down early. Just
and a penalty.
And a penalty, man. I do wonder if there's, and we hadn't seen like these yips from Ladd in the first couple of weeks, so maybe it was just a bad day at the office. Between Marv, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, something in that second-year wide receiver Kool-Aid, man, guys really just not playing up to the potential that we know they have. So we're through 4 weeks now. Quentin Johnston is a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. Keenan Allen, 37 scoreless yards here. So we've seen him have better days. So I'm ready, Dwayne. Ladd McConkey's a wide receiver 3 in this offense. I think he will have better days because, come on, he just had 11 yards. That's not exactly saying much. But like Quentin Johnston, man, he's the better receiver right now. He's been the better receiver for a month, and I know we can go back to last year, but I do think there's enough to the idea that Keenan Allen really is overlapping with a lot of the things that McConkey was really soaking up on his own last year. We also have an ascending Quentin Johnston playing great football. And, Justin Herbert, like you always say, Dwayne, who knows more about football than us? Justin freaking Herbert, and he's throwing the ball to Quentin Johnston, man, more than Ladd McConkey at this point. The air yards paint the same picture. I mean, look, I'm not going to rank Ladd McConkey as a wide receiver 45 or anything, but hey, we already were squeezing things enough in the week 4 ranks, man. McConkey's going to be a number 3 guy in the equation in week 5 for me. What say you?
Yeah, so I mean, look, Johnson's playing great to your point. Let's just give him his due number one. 23.8 PPR points today. On the season, the man is averaging 19.9 points per game. You got him super late, maybe even off your waiver wire in some of your leagues. Like that, dude, that's a league-winning player right now if he continues to do what he's doing. Like you're getting to put him in like your flex spot. Some of you guys playing in these sicko leagues where you got three starting wide receivers and 2 flexes, and he's in one of those flex spots. Like you're absolutely loving life. 25% target share on the season, 2.16 yards per route run. So Johnston, number 1, playing absolutely great. I think your point around Keenan Allen is the big thing here. What he is doing is really duplicative of what Ladd McConkey did last year. And I do believe that's impacting McConkey. My gut says, Ian, by the time we get to the end of the year, these 3 guys will be really close. But I had already, started adjusting on McConkey anyway. Like, I mean, I told people today to put bets down on Johnston and Allen. I'm like, man, guys, like people are not reacting to like what's happening in these first few games, and they're just holding on so strongly to their priors. And that doesn't mean McConkey's bad, but dude, like today on Underdog, McConkey's all his lines were all higher than Johnston or Allen. They have been every week. So I think we at least have to start to soften, and you have to start to look at this as being more of an equal 3-way split. I heard you laugh there with the soften comment, but with Johnston and Allen, like I think by the end of the year, they're probably all really close. But I mean, Johnston and Allen have such a head start already, like as far as like what the points will look like for the season. I will say this. I would still be willing to trade for Ladd McConkey. It obviously depends on like what someone's gonna, give him, trade him away for. But at the same time, like, I mean, I'm not going nuts about it because there's 3 guys here to feed. And now Omari Hampton's getting targets, out of the backfield. So, and we've got Joe Alt out. So there's a lot of things going on here. But I still like McConkey. But man, what can you say? Johnston and Allen are balling out.
But when you compare Ladd to someone like Brian Thomas Jr., who I still think is very good at football, I just feel better about Justin Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence, and I feel better about the pass game volume being afforded to this Chargers offense overall. So I'm with you. I still would be willing to buy low on Ladd. But again, just in terms of people out there right now sticking with Ladd McConkey, it sucks, It really does. And I totally understand if, again, you have close start sit decisions, treating him more like a wide receiver 3 who does not need to be in starting lineups, unfortunately. So Chargers will be facing the Commanders next week. Hopefully, again, Jaden Daniels is healthy enough to suit up for that one. And
You
get
guys
some
can
good
thank us.
old
Lad
fantasy
McConkey
friendly
will be a
shit out.
wide receiver. I'm sorry, Ian. You guys can all thank us.
Good.
Lad McConkey will be the wide receiver 1 on the entire slate in the next game. Like, that's what we just did for you.
That's what we're here for, Dwayne. That's part of the
Exactly. That's
job.
the only
So
reason we're here. That's part of our job. Let's do
the
it.
Houston Texans took down the Tennessee Titans 26-0, covering with ease as a 7-point fave. The under cash of 39.5. So I will say it wasn't exactly the sort of get right performance that you might have expected this to be based on the final score. This game was only 6-0 in favor of Houston going into the fourth quarter. They scored in like the first play of the fourth quarter. Not saying it was overly close, but again, CJ Stroud, 233 and 2 touchdowns through the air. We did have Nico Collins have a nice, deep ball catch, 79 yards total, 1 touchdown each to Jaden Higgins and Woody Marks, Dwayne. That really is the big story here. Seemingly took over this backfield from Nick Chubb. So someone we hyped up last week as the number 1 waiver wire addition on the waiver wire. Yeah, said that twice, whatever. Woody Marks, RB1 the waiver wire last week. He's for sure going to be it this week. Hopefully he's already chilling on your bench because I saw you tweeting, Dwayne. Sure seems like he legit could be an upside RB2 the rest of the way if this usage sticks.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys do this, but Woody Marks has been added 30,658 times today over on Yahoo in the pre-market action. Like, you guys just have waiver wires like wide open all the time. So wait, hey, and if you do, great for you. Kenneth Gainwell was added 87,000 times. So those are your top 2 running back ads of the week. And if I were looking at it for the rest of the season, I would take Marks over Gainwell. Ian, I'm sure you would as well. Not taking anything away from Gainwell. Like, he should probably be rostered pretty much everywhere after what we saw today. Like, his contingency upside is big. But man, yeah, Woody Marks, looking what he did in this game. Last week we saw him move into that 40% of the snaps. So he basically became like the clear-cut number 2 to Nick Chubb. And in this game, man, 59% of the snaps, 52% of the rushing attempts, 50% route participation. So not like he completely dominated all the attempts and the routes, but getting half the work in those categories, but an 18% target share, Ian. And this guy was a prolific receiver in college. We know that's the thing. That's the cheat code for running backs. We're seeing it. 12% of his carries today went for 10 plus yards, 27.9 PPR points. And guys, right now, Marks is still available. He's only rostered 31% of the time in Yahoo. Like, this is another empty the whole piggy bank. Like, don't be cute about it. If he is still available on your waiver wire, you just got to go all in. I know I don't know anything about Joe Mixon. Like Ian says, we don't even know if Joe Mixon. We just want to see him hold up a newspaper with today's date. We have no information on Joe Mixon. But I mean, even if we get Mixon back and he's dealing with an injury, like, I just feel like Woody Marks at this point, like, is going to be someone we want on our rosters anyway. Mixon would definitely like hurt him, but after showing this, I just don't think you can be shy. You just got to go all in, Ian.
Because what I saw today, man, is they're willing to make him the 1A of this equation. There was like a 4th and 2, man, where they just gave him the ball up the middle. And guess what? Woody Marks got that first
Making
down.
stuff happen.
Exactly, man, because I wasn't sure if the Texans possibly – because remember, he was working behind Dario Gumbawale, who is a strict pass down back. I wasn't positive if they were going to really let Woody Marks ascend to that RB1 job. Certainly seems like that was the case. So truly, Dwayne, empty the clip on the guy. Maybe not if we're like in an
hopefully you already got him,
but yeah. Okay. So again, situation where it's not quite the same as, I don't want to Trey Benson. If Trey Benson was on your waiver wire last week, again, very, very clear cut, the RB1 out there. But again, the chance that Woody Marks has to ascend, it really isn't all that different, again, from a handcuff emerging pretty much out of nowhere. So Woody Marks doing great things. And it was good to see that because, again, this Texans offense really does badly need all the explosive plays they can get. Next week, though, they will be traveling to Baltimore to take on a very, very banged up Ravens defense. Hopefully the good times can keep on rolling there in Houston. Over with the Titans, Dwayne, this is one of the saddest teams in football, if not the most sad right now. After the game, Cam Ward said, if we keep it a buck right now, we dropped a quarter of our effing game. So yeah, Cam Ward really keeping it 100 with all of us, which I can appreciate. But yeah, he's not wrong, Dwayne. 21 minutes time of possession here. Calvin Ridley, Alec Manor, Tony Pollard, they technically have to gain yards at some point, but any close start sit decision with a Tennessee Titan for the foreseeable future, take the other guy.
Yeah, Cam Ward's averaging 154 passing yards per game with 0.5 passing touchdowns per game. We can just move on from this team.
Maybe welcome back Tajay Spears, but again, it's not like we were feeling good about Tony Pollard in the meantime. So move on, we will, to the Eagles taking down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-25. Philly did cover as 3.5-point faves. The overcash here of 44.5. So again, situation where the Eagles were up 24-6 at halftime. Tampa Bay did make it close, but a brutal end zone interception by Baker and then a turnover on downs in the final two possessions helped the Eagles go 4-0. So really was just a tale of two halves for Jalen Hurts in the passing game, Dwayne. He was 15 of 16 for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half. He finished with 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. So as you guys can put together, 0 for 9. He did not complete a pass in the entire second half of football. Absolutely wild. Because again, the passing game looked like they picked up where they left off in that second half of the Rams game where they had that great comeback. Again, didn't necessarily need to be throwing the ball a ton in the second half, but just continue to hate seeing how disjointed a passing game can look at times when you have all the talent that they do. So luckily that talent, at least the Dallas Goedert part of the equation, got going in the first half, had 2 short design goal line scores. Unfortunately, didn't leave a ton of meat on the bone for Devonta Smith or AJ Brown, who seemingly, Dwayne, starting to get a little bit discontent with his role. Quoted the Bible, I believe, Mark chapter 6, verse 11. If you are not welcomed, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene, shrug your shoulders, and be on your way. Honestly, kind of a little dark, negative quote from the Bible. If I will say, I'm not a huge, Bible reader myself, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like the sort of attitude I would expect to be reading in that book. So yeah,
basically, don't stay where you're not welcome is what he's saying there. But here's the thing, AJB, 9 targets today. You had a 38% target share. I'm not saying they're all perfect, but own a little bit. Like you're averaging 7 targets per game. Not great, but that's enough for a talent like AJ Brown. Now, we've talked about Hurts. We've talked about the woes. We've talked about the design. We've talked about the scheme. It's very basic in Philadelphia. Now, last week we got some goodness because the Rams really forced them to have to push the ball down the field. So, look, this is par for the course, man. I mean, Jalen Hurts is not throwing for a lot of yards. No one's forcing the Eagles to do it. But I mean, still, when you get 9 targets in a game, and then you want to quote the Bible, I mean, I don't really know what else you want. I mean, you dominated the passing attack and a team that threw the ball how many times a day? 15 times, and you got 9 of the targets. So stop crying, bro. Stop crying.
But yeah,
24 times. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, 15 completions. Yeah. I was going to say 38% wouldn't make sense. So just stop crying, AJB. Do more with your targets in this one. Overall, I agree. We're sick of this Eagles offense. We've said it many times. I don't have anything else to add. Devonta, Goddard, all stuff's pretty much business as usual. Barkley, business as usual, not scoring as many fantasy points, but the role's massive. I'll say this, Barkley's due for a massive game. He has a 17% target share on the season. That's the thing he wasn't getting last year. And so he's actually getting the targets this year. We know it's a good offensive line. Barkley's due to just explode. He's due for an eruption.
And it's been with those targets that he's actually looked like usual Saquon, making dudes miss when he actually is in the open field. There's been no running room, Dwayne. Again, maybe part of it is just the offensive line being banged up. They had to replace Becton. I know we didn't expect that to be the biggest issue, but Lane Johnson had the stinger that kept him out a lot last week, and then he suffered a shoulder injury this week that also had him sidelined. But again, just 43 rushing yards on 19 carries for Saquon, 8 or 9 of which came on a fake tush-push touchdown that I'm surprised they were willing to use this early. Maybe got spooked by Vita Vea being one of the few people to stop that tush-push over the last few years. But I'm with you. Should be better days after Saquon. Go ahead.
I was just looking at AJ Brown. He signed that 3-year extension in 2024, which was for $84 million. I don't even know who can trade for this dude.
New England.
Hey, I would take that with Drake May. Drake May's looking good. I think that would probably actually be a plus for AJ Brown. They are probably the one team, huh? I mean, obviously these teams get creative and they figure out ways to make these deals work. So I know the salary cap's not real, people. You just kick the can down the road. You get some people to restructure and stuff. But I mean, working on a big deal, do $17 million this year, $24 million next year. So it's gonna take a team with some room.
Mentioned the Lane Johnson injury. Also, Eagles defensive tackle Jalen Carter suffered a shoulder injury. They said he re-aggravated. Obviously, one of the best defensive players in the league. So it will be a nice plus for J.K. Dobbins and the Denver Broncos when they do face off next week. Also, I wouldn't be surprised, Dwayne, if Saquon is limited in some capacity. He got twisted up pretty bad on one play, was kind of down for a second, got back up, and I don't believe he missed any playing time. I mean, he had a freaking 83% snap rate out there on the day. But again, just wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see some early week limited action. action. Over with those Buccaneers, again, a situation where Baker getting away with it, man. I think it was Sam Monson tweet where he has Steven Ruiz, I think. He has like 8 or 9 turnover-worthy plays this year, but like has only actually thrown a few picks out of those. So, playing a little bit dangerous out there, as we know Baker's known to do, but man, hey, one man's danger is another man's beautiful tight window pass, just like the one he had to Emeka Egbuka. Split 2 defenders downfield. Egbuka hauled it in, kept the concentration, went 77 yards to the house, topped 100 on the day. So great to see that from Emeka Egbuka, and great to see a returning Chris Godwin. Dwain had to deal with a drop or two out there, but really did seem like he was going out there. Looked, as far as my eye test could tell, like, pretty much normal Chris Godwin, and Baker had no problem force feeding him the football. So I know we were being a little bit hesitant, with Godwin this first week back, more of a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. 10 targets, though, Dwain, again, passing the eye test. I think I'm going to be willing to jump him right back up, at least into that wide receiver 3 range.
Absolutely. 93% routes, 26% of the targets today, 146 air yards. Egbuka had 148. I mean, he was right there with Egbuka on everything except the fantasy points. Egbuka had 20.1 today and Godwin had 5.6. And I know people are going to look at that. Oh, that's because he sucks. Guys, like, look, he's out there. He got the targets. Like, what else do you want? Like, I know you want the fantasy points, but if you're looking for an indicator to be willing to start him in the next game they play, like, you just got it. You just got the green light to play Chris Godwin. And that's the big takeaway. Real quick on Egbuka, 17.8 fantasy points per game now on the season, Ian, with a 23% target share. Rookie is absolutely balling. So we'll see what happens here with Mike Evans. They did not put him on IR, but definitely sounded like it was going to be more than a 1-week injury. So we're probably looking at another 1 to 2 games without Evans. And that's going to boost both Egbuka and Godwin, but not Cade Otton because he sucks.
It has been rough for Cade Otton.
We both tried, Ian.
I know.
You tried 2 weeks ago. I tried this week. So
which means, Dwain, we are not trying this week. So get ready to watch Cade Otton ball out next
Maybe
Sunday
Friedman
here
will do it
against the Seattle Seahawks. So you did mention the Chris Godwin air yards, 124 unrealized air yards on Sunday. That was the 3rd most on the week. Otherwise, Dwayne, we just again tip my hat to the great Bucky Irving, 63 rushing yards, 102 yards receiving, had a 72-yard touchdown on a scramble dribble. He just took off and Baker put it on him. Again, remains so impressive what Bucky can do as a receiver. We can't quite crown him as that Christian McCaffrey level receiver because who is the position? But I'll tell you what, Dwayne, if we're sitting here in a couple of years and he is that good, man, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, but if we're just ranking playmakers at the running back position, like, God, he's in the top 5 for sure. Like, honestly, like him and James Cook, the way they're both playing right now, there's a lot. Bijan is right there, but like the way these guys manipulate second level defenders is like, I mean, James Cook's taking his game to another level. We'll talk about him later, but Bucky, man, just constantly setting guys up on the other side of his lineman, getting the linebacker to peek in the other hole, and then he's bouncing through the next one. Almost every time making the first guy, like, maybe not miss, but making it something that looks like it's about to be a direct shot, turns it into a glancing blow, manages to keep his balance. So yeah, Bucky finally living up to his utilization score. We talked about it. The utilization score said, hey, look, like Bucky Irving, like he's been fine for you, but he's due for a massive game, 25.5 PPR points today.
Up to 26 missed tackles forced on the season, tied for the second most in the NFL, behind only Bijan Robinson himself. So keep an eye on this Buccaneers defense, though. Not that they were a group we were overly fearing, but man, Dwayne, they suffered some injuries today. Cornerbacks Jamel Dean and Benjamin Morrison suffered hip, groin, and hamstring injuries. Also, Hassan Reddick, their edge, and then Greg Gaines, their defensive tackle, all banged up. Again, could be good news for the Seattle Seahawks for that matchup next week. Moving right along, we had the New England Patriots take down the Panthers 42-13 in a game that really wasn't ever close. The Patriots were up 28-6 at halftime. So Panthers had a good first drive, and that really was about it for most of the day. Another very clean performance from Drake May. Dwayne, he's had a couple of these now this season, completed 14 of 17 passes for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns, chipped in 11 yards on the ground and ran in for a touchdown, hit the Cam Newton Superman celly on it. If you have ever doubted that this man has it, man, we should know that after this one. So only took 1 sack, had a 19% pressure rate, Dwayne. That was the 3rd lowest mark on the week. And it was the big reason why, again, I did identify him as a boom candidate in my mismatch article because, again, the one thing that can kind of stop this Patriots offense is a play-making, negative play-oriented defense. That is not exactly what the Panthers have going over there. So, look, Drake May was a top 8 quarterback. I'm not trying to hurt myself, pat my own back, but again, good to see him just play such a clean game. We know what he can do in the fantasy streets as well. The big story, Dwayne, was this running back room. We were hoping for a Travion Henderson takeover while we did get get a touchdown. They're still keeping 3 running backs involved, aren't they?
Yeah. Just real quick on Drake May, though, 20.9 fantasy points per game. He's averaging 247 yards. Did not hit the over today on his passing prop. Ian did not play at the end of the game because they were up by so much, which is part of the whole thesis, like with probably why his line was so low, when you're looking.
But Dwain, the fact he got that close on 17 freaking pass attempts, the process
was one pick away from getting the 4 for 4 again. Well, I did tell people you had to choose between Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen. I just played it both ways today. But yeah, Drake May, man, and like 25 rushing yards per game was with a half a rushing touchdown per game. Like, dude, yeah, this guy's locked into the top 8 rest of the way. The running backfield continue to be a grotesque. I will just call it that, Ian. Grotesque, not just gross. 3-way backfield. Prior to the final drive, when they were resting these dudes, Mondre, 56% of the snaps, Hendo 31%, Gibson 20%. Rushing attempts, 39% to Mondre, 30% to Hendo, 26% to Gibson. And I know you're a Gibson truther, so you're probably happy for him. Actually, I think you're not, just because your Hendo bags are heavy enough that you're willing to let go of your Gibson trutherism. But that's the problem, man. The third dude involved here is this is Washington. This is Washington, and we don't like what we're seeing in Washington and Kansas City. So, I mean, we can't sit here and try to paint it as anything other than what it is. It sucks. I know Hendo came through with the 12.6 PPR points. It gives you some hope. He scores a touchdown today, but man, this sucks. He does have the 12% target share. He is the guy used the most in the passing game consistently every week. That is one thing Hendo has going that those other backfields don't. We also know he's still, a big playmaker. We haven't necessarily seen it yet. So still, though, like, we can't upgrade him, man. Like, he's stuck down there in like low end running back 3 territory, and you're hoping for a big play. I mean, that's where we are. And unfortunately, it's not like you can really use the other guys either. Mondre gave you 5.1 PPR points today. Gibson gave you 8.7. So it's just nasty.
No fumbles from Mondre and Gibson, so step in the right direction there. But yeah, certainly not, again, the way we were hoping to be feeling after this one. But again, at least we did get that touchdown on the ground from Henderson. Also one from Gibson. Mentioned the 2 passing touchdowns from Drake May. He did find Dwain's favorite player, Mac Hollins, on a short one from 4 yards out. Also, Hunter Henry, who was inches away, Dwain, from a 2-touchdown day. Honestly, I'm still kind of surprised that he didn't manage to barge his way over the goal line. Playing some good football, though, I must admit, even as president of the Hunter Henry hater fan club. That said, the leading receiver was Stephon Diggs, caught 6 of 7 targets for 101 yards, his first game with over 100 yards since October of 2023. So love seeing, again, a guy come back from an injury and go ahead and put forward a big-time performance. That said, Dwain, we know that there have been some issues with Diggs even getting a full-time role. Do we finally see him break out on that today?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a full-time role, and so I got rid of the final drive when they were resting these guys, but 82% route participation ahead of that, 41% target share, a 13 average depth of target. So that's really good. 62% of the air yards today. So massive step forward. Yeah, massive step forward, in my opinion, is what we've really been waiting on with Diggs. We haven't really been able to push him up the ranks, but kind of similar to Godwin. I think, like, once we see this data point, we're not saying he's going to do this every week, guys. But man, Drake May looks good, and we need someone here, and no one else is stepping forward. Yes, Hunter Henry, he's done some things, but still, I mean, he had a 12% target share today. It's not like Hunter Henry's out here dominating. Like, he's going to be a 17, 18% target share guy when the year's done. There's room for someone to be a 25%er. Maybe it can be Stephon Diggs. Like, that's the best chip we have. So yeah, I think Stephon Diggs gets an upgrade, moves into wide receiver 3 territory. We'll see how it goes from here. But man, if he can get that route participation up to like 88, 92% and stay there on a weekly basis, I think we're going to feel pretty good about Stephon Diggs moving forward.
Revenge game special in Buffalo on Sunday Night Football for Diggs next week. Get your popcorn ready for that one. Again, not going to be bumping up in the top 24 in the ranks, but hey, with 4 teams on bye, certainly could see him getting inside that top 36. Again, very nice step forward there for the veteran receiver. Over with the Panthers, Dwain, they're just not even a fun bad, man. Like, how the Cowboys are obviously a bad football team, but they're a fun bad. They put up a lot of points and they give up a lot of points. But the Panthers, man, like, even that game last week, it was one of the most just boring 30-0 wins I think I've seen. They couldn't even crack 250 yards. Like, their highlight of the season, okay, yeah, winning a game 30-0 is your highlight. But that second half ill-fated comeback against the Cardinals, that was more of a collapse than probably a comeback anyway. So, I don't know, man. Bryce Young, yeah, he played some good football for an 8-game stretch at the end of last year. I fully admit admit that. But end of the day, man, all NFL players have ups and downs. We can't exactly just take 7 or 8 games out of a player's career and say, no, truly, trust me, this is who they are. Since entering the NFL, Bryce Young is dead last in yards per attempt, completion rate, passer rating, and EPA per dropback. I'm tired of watching the guy play football, man. I guess there's not a ton out here other than Tedderell McMillan. I hope those better days ahead, but it's just frustrating, Dwayne. We got a touchdown to our guy, Tommy Tremble. Love seeing Tommy Tremble do his thing.
Tommy Trembles.
Tommy Trembles. That's the only thing that makes me smile in Carolina. Tommy Trembles.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is a bottom rung passing game, 188 yards per game this year for Bryce Young. That's terrible. 1.25 touchdowns per game. Like, he's probably lucky to have that. Andy Dalton comes in and immediately goes 5 of 6 for 58 yards, hits Tet McMillan down the field. Honestly, like, Tet McMillan might be a wide receiver 1 with Andy Dalton. Like,
we saw what happened with Deontay briefly last year.
Yeah, man. So I don't know that the Panthers will do it because they're 1-3 and they probably just want to get the best draft pick they can, A and B, get a full evaluation on Young. But I mean, you might start to lose the locker room that way. I don't know. I would love to see Dalton under center, to be honest. I don't think there's anything else to say here. Tet McMillan is an absolute freaking baller, but he's stuck in a dumpster fire offense. He gave you 10.2 PPR points today. I mean, he's got a 25% target share, but Bryce Young sucks. I mean, there's really nothing else to say.
Unfortunately, T-Mac with 35 targets on the year is now the number 1 player in terms of most targets without a receiving touchdown. Had a bunch of the guys on top of him, find the end zone this week. So not the thing you want to be leading in. Continues to flash on a weekly basis. Again, I've never been more sure the dude is a grade A baller receiver. Maybe he'll just be the guy who, again, booms more so in the second half of his rookie year. Last thing, Dwayne, I did want to ask, because Chuba Hubbard also, like Jalen Moore, was a midweek addition to the injury report. He was in with a calf issue. Did we see Chuba with his usual, kind of 70-30 roll ahead of Rico Dowdle?
Yeah, they rested him the final 2 drives, but prior to that, he had 70% of the snaps, 56% of the rushing attempts, so a little bit more to Dowdle, and Dowdle did play a little bit more early in the game, so it might have been a small factor, but still 70% snap share. So Hubbard really playing the same role. ETN looked like he was flashing, but he had 2% snaps before the garbage time 2 drives where they had the starters out with Hubbard and Dowdle.
Last note, Panthers are taking on the Dolphins next week, which should be a great spot for them to hopefully get back on track, or just find the track, I guess I should say, in the first place. But they did lose their right guard, Chandler Zavella, to a knee issue. And again, they've already been without their center, Austin Corbett, and guard Robert Hunt. So again, I know I came down harshly on Bryce Young, but guys, I mean, every team is dealing with injuries to some point.
He looks terrible. You get Coker back, you get Leggett maybe back, but still, like, I don't know.
Please, Bryce, start playing like he did in the second half of last year. That was a fun bet. I can get behind that.
Make us look bad.
Please, Bryce. Nothing would make me happier. Let's move on to those Buffalo Bills. They took down the New Orleans Saints 31-19. A game that was a little bit tight there, uncomfortably tight probably for Bills fans and certain people who had them in our survivor pool, but they again pulled it out. Credit to Spencer Rattler and the Saints though for covering as 14.5-point dogs. Over did cash at 48.5, so that's fun. Yeah, Josh Allen, again, 2 touchdowns through the air. One to Khalil Shakur on a really cool 43-yard screen that he busted and broke some tackles on. Another one to Dalton Kincaid, basically got wide open on a wheel route. But unfortunately, man, I mean, we had 22 total pass attempts here. Also had the run game continuing to do great things with James Cook rushing for $117 and a score. Josh also punched one in from a few yards out, had 45 yards on the ground. So Josh Allen's incredible. So is James Cook. Unfortunately, we can't get too excited about anyone else because everyone eats in Buffalo, Dwayne, which is great for them, but not so much for fantasy managers.
Yeah, we'll just leave the receivers alone because the routes, again, were bad today. The highest was Coleman at 79%. Shakir was 71%. So it's just a massive rotation. Kincaid is playing well, scoring touchdowns finally in his career. But, man, the big thing is James Cook, like, he's just in a different role now, Ian. I mean, he had 74% of the snaps today, 85% of the rushing attempts, 68% route participation, and 18% target share on his way to 22.5 fantasy points, now averaging 19.8 per game with a 61% snap share on the season, has handled 69% of their rushing attempts on the season, 93% snap share inside the 5. they've had more than one snap inside the 5 this year, Ian. I can't remember the team we were talking about that I had the wrong data point for. Jacksonville this week. They had, hey, Jacksonville, we'll get to them in a minute, but they had another snap inside the 5 today, and it went to Tootin.
All right.
Looking at, yeah, but we're up to a sample of 2. But yeah, man, 42% of the attempts inside the 5 because you still have, Josh Allen doing his thing. But dude, like James Cook, like absolutely freaking dominating on a good offense, averaging 5.3 yards per carry. 13% of his carries have gone for 10 plus yards. Guys, the NFL average is 9%, 3.6 yards after contact. The NFL average is 2.1. So yeah, James Cook absolutely balling.
Remember when he couldn't score touchdowns, Dwayne? That was like a thing. It was real, it wasn't like a lie. I believe he is.
His roles changed. Yep. I mean, yeah, those small guys will never get the carries inside the 5, Ian. It'll never, ever happen.
Before today, he was literally one behind Jahmyr Gibbs in the regular season. I think postseason they were even tied. So yeah, James Cook looking very much like one of the best running backs in real life and fantasy. Gotta love that. Over with the Saints again. Spencer Rattler. Back-to-back performances, I think, were a little bad, Dwayne. We were starting to say some nice things about him, but he missed Brandon Cooks on a skinny post on a ball that really should have been 6 points. Also had Rashid Shaheed that was close. Again, just wasn't an overall very clean performance. So tough matchup going into Buffalo, man. But I don't know. At some point, you're 0-10 as a starting quarterback. Maybe we start to see what, Tyler Shuck is all about. Especially, man, with Alvin Kamara doing nothing as a receiver this year. So I'm not saying that your passing game should be going through the running back, but it's just wild to see a guy who has never averaged below 32 receiving yards per game be stuck at just 12.3. So he chipped in 70 rushing yards. But Dwayne, man, the Saints team's going nowhere fast. I know Kamara loves the community. He just signed a contract last year. Should we start picking up Kendre Miller? Because, man, there's some RB needy teams out there. And I do wonder if the Saints could get a 3rd-round pick or something if they would maybe talk to Kamara about sending him off somewhere nice.
Yeah, I mean, and Kendre is available a lot, guys. Now, again, like you need a full-time role to be worth anything in this dumpster fire of an offense. But Kendre did have 11 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown today. And man, his touchdown run was really nice. Like he broke some tackles, kept his balance. He didn't take like a big direct hit, but he broke multiple arm tackles and different things like nice. That. So he's trending up. His snaps have gone from 16 to 27 to 32% over the last 3 games. His rushing attempts have gone from 19 to 28 to 37%. So they're clearly getting this man more involved. Kamara, what's funny is today he actually was involved in the receiving game. He had 5 targets. But he only had 4 receptions for 2 yards. So yeah, not the normal kind of stuff we're used to from Kamara when he does get his targets. Kamara 11.2 fantasy points today. 72% of the snaps, like still getting plenty of work, but Kendre Miller starting to chip away. And yes, in these deeper leagues where you're not going to have a guy like Woody Marks available, you're not going to have some of these other names where like, oh my God, go get him because you guys are like, not in my league, pal. Well, maybe Kendre Miller is available. So you'll have to take that as a consolation. I know you don't like it, but that's what you got.
Because, again, Dwayne, we are in some of these skank leagues where, again, you look at the waiver wire options, and it is brutal. Again, it was a 20-round draft. We have a bunch of bench spots. Kendre Miller is like one of the few running backs. So I'm like, okay, we actually are only one move away from him actually being someone that we could put in a starting lineup with some level of confidence. So, again, in those leagues, I would recommend Kendre Miller as a nice little bench stash. Otherwise, good to see Chris Olave find the end zone for the first time this year. Did unfortunately throw an interception before halftime. So,
he had negative points. At half.
So that was a little bit unfortunate. Philly special gone wrong there. Yeah, man. Last question. Did Juwan Johnson miss some time? I thought I heard he got banged up a little early. I didn't put this one on the quad box to me.
Well, he didn't see his normal 100% route participation today. It was 80%. I did not see any news on an injury, but a 12% target share. So yeah, I'll just say real quick on Olave, 12.1 fantasy points per game. He has a 31% target share on the season, but he's only averaging 46.3 receiving yards per game with a 1.17 yards per route run. That's what nasty, nasty quarterback issues can do. Olave's doing his part, guys. Like he's balling. I know the pick was gross today. Probably shouldn't have thrown the ball, but whatever. I don't know. Maybe we'll see Tyler Shuck before long. Don't know that that'll be much better. I heard it was both his and Spencer Rattler's birthday today. My guess is that Shuck is older.
Whoa.
by probably like 5 years.
It's kind of wild sharing a birthday in a QB room. Oh, well. Hey, Chris Olave, though. Okay, there's only 3 wide receivers, 3 players this year with over 30 targets and under 200 receiving yards. Chris Olave, Brian Thomas Jr., and Jerry Jeudy. Okay. Not saying you can't play those guys. We expect better days ahead for BTJ. We'll talk about him a little bit. But again, all this, we said before, Dwayne, I don't even know that Chris Olave is this definitive buy low guy. I think he's a wide receiver 3, playing like a wide receiver 3, who we should treat as a wide receiver 3, because unfortunately, I don't see this offense getting a lot better.
I did verify on Perplexity. It is both of their birthdays today. That
is Well, let us be the last to say happy birthday to Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck then. Let's move on to the Lions taking down the Browns 34-10. Detroit covered with relative ease as 10-point faves. The under did cash here at 44.5. So again, Myles Garrett and the Browns pass rush certainly didn't make life easy for the Detroit Lions. Just 168 passing yards for Jared Goff. Wasn't for a lack of trying though, Dwayne, particularly to Jameson Williams. He had a team high 8 targets. Again, week high 11.6 yard average target depth for Goff, because he kept slinging it downfield for Jameson. 195 unrealized air yards for Jamo, Dwayne. That is the highest single game mark of the last 2 seasons, not even just in 2025. So there was one probable drop that got marked down where it's kind of like he had to turn his head over to his opposite shoulder as he was going downfield. One of the hardest catches you can ask someone to make, but man, just couldn't quite connect. So it sucks and everything, but next week, man, they're in Cincinnati. Like, they're trying to get Jamo going with one of these big games, man. It's going to happen. I know it's frustrating. We had our start sit hour this morning. Dwayne, Chris, and Alan and I answer everyone's questions. It's a fun time. Chris called Jameson Williams, I think it was glorified MVS, which was hateful, spiteful. I didn't love it, but he's kind of got a point. That said, I still believe more so in Jamo, man. It's just, he's a boomer bust wide receiver 3. That's honestly been more like a boomer bust wide receiver 4, and I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing with Jamo, we talked about a little bit on last week's show, he just hasn't taken the step forward that we were hoping for with all the positive news. Really, last year was his first year as the starter, so we gave him a little grace, based on the injury he was coming off of in college in year 1. Then year 2 had the suspension, did some knucklehead stuff, didn't really get to play. But now we're sitting at a 17% target share today, and we're trying to be like, oh man, they really tried to get him involved. Like, okay, 27% still went to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, yeah, I mean, look, MVS, that's slander. Because MVS can take like a 13% target share, but at the same time, playing a very similar role. So Chris is definitely onto something. Just so happens he plays in the Lions offense, guys. So you're still going to get the booms. And as soon as you bench Jamo, you're going to hate your whole life. Like, you're just going to want to drain your life savings account. You're going to go to Vegas, put it all on black. It's going to be a bad day. You just got to keep playing him unless you're in a shallow league. I don't know what to tell you. If you're in a league that has 8 teams and you only start 2 wide receivers, great. You're benching Jamo. He should have already been on your bench. But any sizable league, like, you're going to have to be playing him, and you just got to stick it out unless you've just, maybe you got Quentin Johnston on your bench. Great. Bench Jamo for that. Like, you can absolutely do that. So the big thing though, Ian, is just not taking the step forward so far this season. Just really clear second fiddle. Amon-Ra St. Brown's averaging 23.6 fantasy points per game with a 27% target share on the season. Jamo's at 17%. So it is what it is.
We'll say, Dwayne, that was a oddly specific descriptor of what you might do on a bad day. I'm here for you, man. If you ever need me, just
I know I got you. I know I can call you and you'll answer, Hartitz.
Our one true sun god did score 2 more touchdowns, caught all 7 of his targets for 70 yards. He's not celebrating anymore. Big bad NFL, I guess, gave him a talking to. But Dwayne, Amon-Ra St. Brown is now on pace for 115 catches, 1,305 yards, and 26 touchdowns, just going out there and balling.
Just doesn't have any upside, Ian.
Just a slot receiver with no upside. Unfortunately, the man who cannot find the end zone is their big tight end, Sam Laporta, 3rd straight week with just 4 targets. Again, it's a situation, Dwayne, where I don't think we've been forcing him into the top 3 or top 4. We bumped him out of that conversation here 2 weeks ago. But just, again, kind of a low-end tight end one who should have better days in the Lions offense, or are you just kind of having worse vibes here with Laporta?
No, I think there's no other. Look, we have the top tight ends, which is expanded a little bit, with Kraft playing, as well as he has, Tyler Warren playing as well as he has. He's clearly behind them, but then he's a group of guys where we're just kind of I don't know, who's going to score a touchdown this week. Unfortunately, that's where Laporta is. The good news is he plays on an offense that happens to score a lot of touchdowns. So, I mean, he's going to be in the tight end 1 ranks every week. It's difficult to know when he's going to come through. I think the big thing here with the Lions, that I'm seeing as far as a trend, we don't have to be on it very long, but it's just that Gibbs is playing in a different role this year. He's got 51% of the rushing attempts on the season. So we're no longer in that like 42-43 where it's him and Monty completely even. He's slightly ahead now in the rushing game. And the big thing for Gibbs, man, that I think is hurting these other guys. It's hurting JMO. It's hurting Laporta. Jahmyr Gibbs has an 18% target share, and he's a badass as a receiver out of the backfield. And so with this change in coordinator, I am wondering if they just decided, hey, it's year 3. It's time to max out what we're getting from Gibbs. He's a better player in space than Laporta and these other guys. So Laporta, the real challenge here is Gibbs. I mean, it's going to be really hard for Laporta to like take a step forward and all of a sudden be like a 23% target share guy whenever you can just get the ball to Gibbs in the flat and he can do all these things that he does. So Jahmyr Gibbs looking absolutely good. I mean, fantastic right now. Monty, rough day at the office. We kind of expected it against the Browns. Not an ideal matchup for him. He's still going to be fine. He's averaging 13 fantasy points per game on the season, despite having a complete dud today.
Looked incredible a week ago, but yeah, we knew this coming in. Again, kind of talked about why Montgomery was the kind of faller in our rankings episode. Just 9 carries for 12 yards against the Browns defense that has been the league's premier defense in terms of stopping opposing running backs. It was another tough sledding here. Lions average under 1 rush yard before contact per carry. Very rare to see that from them. So again, also talked on that show, Dwain, about the difference in targets between Gibbs and DeMont. Last year, it was still Gibbs leading the way, but it was like, I think what the stat I had, it was like 44 to 35 targets, before Montgomery missed time. This year, it really has been all Gibbs. Surprisingly, hasn't made much out of him, which I just can't wrap my mind around. Like, he should be this incredible pass catcher, and it's probably just a small sample size. But again, 20 catches for only 79 receiving yards this year for Jahmyr Gibbs.
I would bet on that changing in a massive way. 19.8 points per game right now. Like, Gibbs probably should be, we'll see what utilization looks like tomorrow, but hey, look, it's hard to project anybody over 20 fantasy points per game. Like, that's going to be where utilization tops out. But like, Gibbs is a special player. Like, I won't be surprised if he's closer to 22 fantasy points per game. It doesn't matter. You're starting the dude. You love him. Like, just roll with it. I will say Monty still gets targeted when he's out there. Just Gibbs is getting more of the routes now.
It's just more surprising. I don't expect it to continue, but that really is very bad, efficiency so far for a player that we know to be extremely good at football. So again, Lions at the Bengals next Sunday. Certainly seemed like that was going to be a much cooler matchup a few short weeks ago. Hopefully Lions can still put up plenty of points in that one. On to the other sideline, the Cleveland Browns. Again, just another lackluster game from Joe Flacco. Was throwing the ball downfield a little bit more often, but took 3 sacks, threw 2 interceptions, one of which was maybe the worst interception I've seen all season long. Also lost a fumble. So Stefanski was asked about QB change afterward, and he said, quote, "That's not our focus. We didn't do enough on offense." So Browns did drop 4 passes. Again, Jerry Jeudy had a pretty rough day out there. I'm not saying it was completely all on Flacco, but it's a situation, Dwain, where, Cedric Tillman left early with a hamstring. Maybe we can start to get more excited about Jeudy or Isaiah Bond or the tight ends because it's going to be a little bit more condensed, but it's just not that dissimilar from the Panthers, man. Flacco in this passing game can throw for 130 yards during any given week, and it's impossible to be excited about pretty much anyone accordingly other than Quinshad Judkins, who was looking really good out there.
Yeah, Flacco, just real quick, 204 passing yards per game, 5.1 yards per attempt. So, it's not where it was. 3.8% of his passes are going for picks. He's going to get benched. And the thing is, I don't even, it may not be this week, so I get it, Stefanski, but is it even going to is it even going to be that big of a deal? I mean, he's not playing good. So I guess the silver lining is I guess Dylan Gabriel could throw for 100 yards per game. That would be worse.
Okay. I don't think they're going to do it next week, Dwain, because they're in London against the Vikings. After that, they go into Pittsburgh. They don't even get a bye week, so that kind of seems a little iffy too. They're home versus the Dolphins after that. I think that probably is the time we see most likely Dylan Gabriel, as much as everyone wants to see Shador.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Flacco is going to be able to hang on to his job. And to your point, those are all good points. Maybe they win these games, and then that gets Flacco back in the good graces. The bottom line is too many mouths to feed with a passing attack that's not very good. We really don't want Jeudy, any of these guys near our lineups. If you guys play in a sicko league, Isaiah Bond is the name that you would be considering to add. You had Tillman knocked out of this game with a concussion. He had a 71% route participation, 18% target share, 8.8 fantasy points per today. But again, you think one guy goes down, maybe it helps consolidate things for Jeudy or Fannin or Njoku. No, now Isaiah Bond is just stepping into this bigger role. So it's too many mouths to feed with a bad passing attack. So yeah, Judkins, main event. Judkins had 21 rushing attempts, 82 yards, and a touchdown, 4 catches on 4 targets. So this was really positive for me, Ian. Because he had a bad game script. He didn't necessarily take over the passing down role. It was Ford still getting 29% of the snaps with 75% of the 2-minute offense. So he was the guy that was out there, but they're targeting Judkins on first and second down, despite having all these other guys that they can throw the ball to. So it's a little thin. Like we would want to see more of a role in the passing game. Like this could eventually catch up with him. But man, in the 2 games where they've take out the first game where you've essentially walked off the plane into the stadium, and we've got 2 games now, 21.5 fantasy points per game, Ian, 60% snap share, 81% of the rushing attempts, 100% of the snaps inside the 5, 37% route participation. That's the number that's low, but he's still got a 12% target share. So, I mean, I don't know. Sorry, 9% target share. I've got guys, everything I just read you was today's game. Sorry. 2 games, 19 fantasy points per game, but 59% of the snaps, 87% of the attempts over these last 2 games. Still 100% of the work inside the 5, and a 9% target share. So, yeah, dude, like Judkins, I mean, I don't think we can necessarily like upgrade him to like low end or high end running back 2 territory just because he doesn't have the passing down work. But like in games that they can keep closer than this one, like, he's probably going to get even more touches than what he had today. So, I mean, the Browns defense is really good. You were in a bad game script and you still came through with almost 22 points today.
And he's done this in the past, man, because he's making the most out of his opportunities. This offensive line isn't exactly open up gaping holes, but man, only David Montgomery has averaged more yards after contact per carry than Quinshon Judkins this year, looking like a beast. And to your point, the fact that they're even throwing him a few passes, per game really is enough for me to, not bump him up in the top 10 or anything. But I'll say this, Dwayne, like when I am going to be getting future start-sit decisions, definitely will be more and more willing to go ahead and just rest my hat on Quinshon Judkins because, again, very good player that we've seen really thrive despite not being in the best situations. They even made it harder on him today, bro. They got down the 1-yard line. They gave Flacco back-to-back QB sneaks. What are you doing giving 40-year-old Joe Flacco a rush attempt, man? But luckily came their senses and gave it to Judkins on 4th down, and he got ahead and scored the touchdown. So cool 35-yard catch from Isaiah Bond, but to your point, really more of a skank league pickup than anything. Only other point from this game, mentioned the Cedric Tillman hamstring injury. The Lions secondary, though, man, is getting banged up. I can't believe this may be happening to them for the 2nd straight year. But DJ Reed, their big free agent acquisition, got carted off after an interception, and also Terrion Arnold dealing with a shoulder injury. So maybe a situation, again, where the Lions could go from being just as dominant, offense, it's also shutting down everyone, to a bit more shootout-happy team overall. So that's going to wrap up this game, guys. We got the late afternoon slate getting to next. First, though, a quick word to our friends over at Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. That's right, football fans. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. This year's schedule is absolutely stacked with rivalries and revenge games, including the next chapter of the epic Bills-Chiefs saga. So stay connected to it all on any device at home or on the go. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today and count on Sundays for another must-see season of the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. All right, Dwayne, we had the Jaguars take down the San Francisco 49ers 26-21. Jags were 3.5-point dogs coming in, so good to see them win outright. Overcashed at 46.5. Some extracurricular shenanigans going on afterwards. Robert Saleh apparently accused Liam Cohen and his staff of legally stealing signs. They had to be separated upon leaving the field. So be careful, Liam Cohen. I think you're right. I don't know. Kind of weird to see someone illegally doing something. Robert Saleh is going to win, man.
Robert Saleh is going to whoop your ass, Liam. Sorry, bro.
Sorry, bro.
Again, not going to be a close one.
Robert Saleh is probably the favorite to beat any coach's ass. So again, nothing against you, Liam, but just be careful.
Like the fire.
Like the fire for sure. But yeah, man, Jaguars, they forced 4 turnovers on Brock Purdy and company, so defense certainly came to play here. Unfortunately, we didn't exactly see the offense, have anything close to a get-right spot. They were really trying to get the ball to Brian Thomas Jr. early, and it was more good than bad. He had an egregious, 2024 Pickens-esque mishap when he caught the ball, had more than enough room to get his second foot down in bounds. Could not quite do so. But hey, 7 targets in the game where Trevor Lawrence only threw the ball 31 times, not too shabby. Travis Hunter also had a cool 28-yard catch down the middle. Did fumble, didn't lose it, drew a DPI. Again, it was fine, Dwayne. I still think BTJ and Hunter are good, but man, things just aren't clicking. Hopefully next week against Kansas City, it'll get better, but just going to probably be another small downgrade for both in the ranks.
Look, Trevor Lawrence sucks. Let's just put it out there. We're back to that spot. We thought he sucked for like 3 years. We tried to give him a chance with this scheme and adding Hunter to go with BTJ. Trevor Lawrence sucks. I mean, he's averaging 211 yards per game with 5.9 yards per attempt, right? I mean, I hope he gets it going. He's got a 58% completion rate on the freaking season. I mean, good God. And he's not even running the ball anymore, Ian. Now he's got 8 rushing yards per game. Like Trevor Lawrence can't be, obviously, you guys already know you're benching Trevor Lawrence, but even your super flex leagues, you're hating life right now with Trevor Lawrence as your QB2. So look, he's holding the entire offense back. I'll be honest, I don't know. And it's just terrible. It's not like they have somewhere else to go. Like, it is what it is. You got Trevor Lawrence, you're stuck with it. I hope it gets better, but he is who he is. We knew it. It's the same thing.
Look, they've had a lot of drops this year. That's the one thing you can go ahead and point at, BTJ, Hunter, and some of those other guys. But Dwayne, the thing that kills me that, again, really makes it tough for me to give T-Law the benefit of the doubt, he's only been pressure on 20% of his dropbacks. That's easily the lowest mark in the league. And look, sometimes pressure can be a bit of a QB stat. Okay, Aaron Rodgers has a real low pressure rate because he just gets rid of the ball fast as hell. The average time to pressure in Jacksonville is the longest in the league. Man, he has all day to throw back there. You can't make it work with this group. I tend to side with you, man.
Yeah. I hope he turns it around because we want it for the weapons. Like I drafted quite a bit of Trevor Lawrence, as my QB2 and best ball stuff. So I would rather he be playing good, but I just think until he shows us for multiple games in a row, we just need to assume Trevor Lawrence is who he's shown us for multiple years now. Like we just have to move forward.
Team effort and everything, but man, like I thought. We've seen Spencer Rattler, Sam Darnold, even Kyler put together, I thought, better performances, arguably, than what T-Law was putting out there today. So, yeah, again, I can't really trust anyone in this passing game. Good stuff from Brenton Strange. He's been an okay enough, upside tight end 2. Call him a borderline tight end 1 if you want. At the end of the day, once you get past tight end 6 or 7, who's to really differentiate between anyone? So, shout out Parker Washington. Did not catch a pass, but did return a punt to the house. That was pretty cool. Otherwise, Dwayne, the real star of the show was Travis Etienne. As much as everyone would love to see Bayshall Tootin take over, this is the ETN RB1 show, and he continues to look good out there, man. Had an electric 48-yard touchdown run where, man, I think it was week 1. He had that 70-yarder where you were saying, Dwayne, I agree with you. It was probably the most impressive run we've seen of his career. This is maybe number 2, man. Like the move he made at the second level to kind of avoid that safety that I thought was going to cut him off and stop him for 15 or 20 yards. Again, great play. Against the 49ers defense that, yes, lost Nick Bosa, but, man, you still got Fred Warner patrolling the middle of the field, man. That is not an easy dude to get past. So Travis Etienne, upside RB2 coming in. And I have a feeling, man, with some of these bye weeks rolling, he'll probably be inside the top 12 more weeks than not moving forward.
Yep. During bye weeks, he's probably going to be in there. He's a mid-range running back too. That's where he's been. He's still in that same thing. Didn't get the 1 snap inside the 5. We're up to 2 snaps inside the 5 this year for the Jaguars. Those have all gone to Tootin, which is kind of funny. It could also just be random, when there's only been 2 of them. So ETN, to your point, just hitting the big plays. We just not getting him on passing downs, 36% route participation. He played 40% of the 2-minute offense today, but man, certainly looks good. And I'll be honest, like if I were the Jaguars, I mean, Tootin's played pretty well as well, but I mean, it would be hard for me as a coach to not want ETN on the field more, considering the big plays that he's been giving.
Yeah, I will say Tootin does look explosive with his opportunities, but ETN this year, I mean, he might be leading the freaking position in yards per carry. I know
it's LaQuint Allen. Like this, just like the little fly in the ointment here in this backfield. That's just kind of I don't want to call him a nuisance. Like he's an NFL player. I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's playing on a team, but it's just one of those deals where you just got to mix him in. It's kind of a pain.
I can confirm that Travis Etienne, NFL high 6.1 yards per carry, absolutely balling this season. Only thing I will note, again, I don't think anyone's going to be lining up to play the Jaguars defense against the Chiefs next week, but they did lose Trayvon Walker, their number 2 stud defensive end, to a wrist issue. So it certainly could make them a little bit less potent here in future weeks. Over at the 49ers, we had a returning Brock Purdy. Dwayne didn't exactly seem to be his sharpest self, perhaps. Again, still not exactly operating at 100% while managing that toe injury. injury. 49ers did drop a week high 5 passes there, but 2 interceptions, neither of which was exactly a great look in my humble opinion. Also took a sack and wound up losing a fumble on what could have been a game-winning drive. So not great there. Again, still got the 309 yards, found rookie Pearsall for a couple nice passes down the sideline. Nice 2-point conversion to Dwain Jennings, who got absolutely crunched there. But otherwise, man, it really is just this offense force-feeding Christian McCaffrey the football. CMC deserves to be the RB1. I get it, man. But like, my goodness, are we just going to try to give this dude 30 freaking touches a week out here? So, hey, he's making good use of the opportunities. But man, Dwayne, I never thought I'd say this, but like, we're good with 23, 25. Like, let's make sure we get in December here, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, 26.1 fantasy points today in PPR formats. Got all the work. Had a freaking 30% target share. Like the dude was at a 29% target share, I believe. 20, maybe it might have been 28% or something. It's something ridiculous. Like he was 10th in the league, including receivers, in target share heading into this game. So yeah, CMC absolutely just dominating all the work. The 49ers, like, they're just all kinds of banged up, Ian. Like, them and the Chargers, like, I feel like every year battle all of these crazy injuries to, like, such key players. Pearsall only played 60% of the routes today. Jennings was at 78%. Tonjes was at 68%. Kendrick Bourne was 70%. They did get DeMarcus Robinson back, but he was in a part-time role. So they just need to get healthy. They need Kittle back. They need Pearsall at full strength. Need to get Jennings going. Eventually get Ayuk. We know that's going to be an extended period at this extended time. But I'll say, with all those people out, to throw for 309 yards and average 8.1 yards per attempt, that's still pretty impressive for Purdy. I know he threw the 2 picks. This guy's he pushes the ball down the field. They're throwing the ball a lot. 38 pass attempts today, 24 rushing attempts, which is a continuing trend for the 49ers. I have a feeling, man, Brock Purdy's probably like a top 8 quarterback. Like, I mean, as much as they're throwing the ball and when these weapons get healthy, Purdy is, I think he's going to be doing pretty good.
I see what you did there. Again, hopefully that these guys can get healthy, though. Pearsall, again, missed time. He had the knee injury coming in, and he also seemed to re-aggravate it out there. Said he felt some pain and instability after falling hard on his knee and took himself out. Yeah, don't love hearing instability with pretty much anything there, Dwayne. Also, again, mentioned Dwain Jennings with a rib injury on top of the ankle and shoulder that he has already been dealing with. I just want this dude to enter a Sunday with no injury designation. I will rank him as a top 24 wide receiver and feel great about it. I'm just not sure if we're going to get that opportunity. So, again, just last point on Christian McCaffrey, Dwayne. It is so much as a receiver this year. Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift, Tyler Algier, those guys have more rushing fantasy points than Christian McCaffrey, but the dude's going out there and producing like a wide receiver 1 through the air. So again, just a full-on PPR cheat code, really what he has been his entire career. Only other note I had was Kendrick Bourne had a week high 3 drops. Great move bringing him in. Anything else on the 49ers, Wayne?
Nope. Good to move on.
And with that, let's get to our Xfinity game of the week, which we decided before the Cowboys and Packers. Accordingly, it's the Rams and Colts. Again, this is brought to you by Xfinity, introducing the 5-year price guarantee. 1 consistent internet price for next 5 years, guaranteed. Again, shout out to Matthew Stafford and the Rams, taking down the Fighting Daniel Joneses 27-20. Rams did cover us 3.5-point faves under cash here at 49.5. So, yeah, man, Stafford and company looked like they were getting ready to go on this, potential long game-winning drive, and just first play hits Tutu Atwell for an 88-yard touchdown with under 2 minutes remaining. So Stafford, 375 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. Most of those yards going to the wide receiver 1 in fantasy, Puka Nacua, caught 13 of 15 targets for 170 yards and a touchdown. I just cannot get over how easy a good 90 to 100 yards of his come every game. And I know it's not easy, but just screens and slants that defenses just seemingly can't stop. Again, it's a mix of him being awesome, Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay doing their thing. And then you get this other games like this where it is 60, 70 yards of him just being so incredible. If he's not in your, again, top 5 real life wide receivers, that's ridiculous at this point. And I know earlier I said Bijan Robinson should be the 101. Bijan's for sure the RB1, but man, Dwayne, if we wanted to redraft today and you said give me Puka, I might just agree with you.
Yeah, man. Puka's amazing. 36 fantasy points today. He's averaging 27.4 on the week. Xfinity best ceiling, nailed it this week. Had Puka as the number 2 player on the slate. Ends up being the number 1 player on the slate. I believe. I'll have to look. I don't know if anybody outscored Puka today. I'm pretty sure he was the number 1. 36 fantasy points is really hard to top. So, yeah, just absolutely dominating. Devontae Adams, even though he didn't have a big target share today, man, they freaking Matthew Stafford loves this guy in the red zone and in the green zone. Caught another touchdown today, 15.6 fantasy points. He's averaging 15.5 on the season with a 26% target share. Guys, Devontae Adams is a top 12 wide receiver, and Puka Nacua is the wide receiver 1. Like, just, it is what it is. Like, we can't get one wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville, but we've got 2 on the Rams right now. So great time to be alive. Quick note, Jordan Whittington was the guy that actually played more than Tutu, a 71% route participation rate. Tutu is at 41%. Tyler Higbee is the tight end 1, but not really getting any sort of targets. They're just ignoring their tight ends at this point.
I will say, man, God forbid Puka, who has been banged up over his career, misses time. Jordan Whittington does a lot of things that he does as like a middle-class man's level. I have picked up Whittington on some dynasty waiver wires. And again, just you guys see how terrible those streets are out there. Guys like Jordan Whittington are kind of who I like to have on my bench. Real quick on Adams, though, Dwain, again, mentioned the touchdown stuff. He's been, the leading, I think, receiver in terms of targets in the red zone this year. Did he still have the full-time role? Because I know he had the hamstring coming in.
96% route participation rate today.
Love seeing that. So I do think that will take us to this backfield. Kyren Williams, another 16 touches, 77 rushing yards, 17 receiving. Did lose a fumble. It actually got charged to Matthew Stafford, and I would not put this one on Kyren. He got blasted pretty much as soon as he got a chance to touch the ball. Pretty similar to what happened to Ashton Genty on that field, 4th down conversion. So running hard, man. Honestly, these last 2 weeks, I think Kyren has looked fantastic, much more like the 2023 version of himself. Still on pace for 323 touches on the season. So we are seeing maybe a little bit more Blake Corum than anticipated, Dwayne, but I don't know, man. If you want to rank Kyren Williams as your RB13 instead of as your RB10, I'll say fine. But like, we still want to start a guy that's looking at 20 touches per week inside this Rams offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a player we like, but like what's happening to him is clearly hurting him because I'm doing his projections every week. And so he's just moving down the board. You got 2 things going on. Number 1, they want to throw the ball now that they're inside the 10-yard line because they have Devontae Adams, and that's impacting him the most. But his snaps are also down 14 percentage points versus last year. His attempts are down 10 percentage points. His raw attempts down 13% from last year. So look, I mean, we create the utilization report for a reason. He's still in a really good role. And to your point, you're going to be starting him, but he's not in the same role that he was in. And every opportunity has a value that's assigned to it. And that's part of what makes up expected fantasy points, is what makes up, the utilization score. So who knows if this will stick, but it is a combination of Blake Corum getting more work than we saw Ronnie Rivers runs through it, or whoever the hell they had behind him last year because Corum wasn't doing anything. This is the most we've seen them give to a number 2 back. And I just think when you add those 2 things, either one of those things maybe in a vacuum is not enough. But both of those things together are enough that it's been holding him down a little bit in the projection model each week. So, I mean, if you look at his rushing attempts by share, week 1, 78%, week 2, 74%, week 3, 65%, and week 4 down to 57%. His opportunities total overall have dropped in every single game. So, again, guys, like Ian said, really good offense. You're going to want to be starting Kyren Williams. I'm just calling out that his role is slightly different. It's still a really good role. It's just not an absolute crazy every down role that he used to have. It has changed a little bit.
And hey, 2023, 2024, I think he was the RB4, RB5 overall in PPR points per game. And now I'm saying he's going to be more of a low-end RB1. Yeah. So it does matter, and the Adams point is well taken. I do think that's been kind of glossed over a bit more by the masses out there. But yeah, look, Thursday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers, fire up Kyren Williams with plenty of confidence. He's got a little bit unlucky around the goal line. He had a touchdown called back, I think, last week and got touched down at the 1-yard line after they started to kneel things out. Either way, good stuff, good bounce back by the Rams again, following last week's unfortunate blown opportunity against the Eagles. Over with the Colts, Danny Dimes, not throwing quite as many dimes today, 2 interceptions that did feature some underthrows, also took 2 sacks. But man, again, if you would have told me a few short weeks ago that Daniel Jones wasn't tossing his first INT until week 4, I would have been pretty freaking amazed at that. So still someone, Dwayne, I think we're going to be able to treat as a low-end QB1 more weeks than not, which again, is still crazy to have that expectation. So as long as his wide receivers, carry the ball across the goal line when they have the opportunity to, DJ should be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, look, 262 passing yards today, 1 touchdown. He did throw the 2 picks. Didn't do much on the ground today. When you look at the Rams, they've been really good as a defense this year. But if you look at Jones, like 19.6 fantasy points per game on the year, he's averaging 270 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown per game, 13 and a half rushing yards, which is actually lower than where he's really been. Today's game obviously hurt him a lot. This is a guy that has hit, when I looked at his prop this weekend, I think it was set at 24 and a half. He's been over that 50% of the games over the last 3 years where he played at least 80% of the snaps. So, I mean, it's a guy we know can get involved on the ground, averaging 1 rushing yard per game, 1 rushing touchdown per game as well. So yeah, I think Jones, like, still in that low end QB1 conversation. Just the Colts are still a really good offense. They made this a close game, like against a good Rams team. I mean, the Colts are 3-1, the Rams are 3-1. It was a heck of a game.
Mentioned the unfortunate gaffe by 180 Mitchell. Finished with 96 yards, should have had a touchdown again. Unfortunately, just tried to move the ball to his other hand as he was crossing the goal line. Instead, fumbled it out the back of the end zone. That would have been already bad enough, Dwain, to be sheesh of the week. But then the man had to double down and got called for a holding on what would have been a 53-yard touchdown by Jonathan Taylor. That very much was of the very freaking cool variety. So unfortunately, JT fell back to earth a little bit without the score. Still gave you, freaking, let's see, 9.6.
14.6.
Like, that's a hell of a floor to have, a quote unquote bad
floor.
game, Dwain. And again, could have tacked on easily another 11 points there with just a little bit better help from his friends. So yeah, JT, again, if you want to rank him as your RB2 the rest of the season, I am not going to disagree there. Tyler Warren continuing to do awesome things, 70 receiving yards, even getting some rushing work along the goal line, Dwain. They gave him a wildcat snap. He kind of got stuffed, and they went ahead and doubled down and gave him a fullback dive. Again, a situation where, how many more weeks, Dwain, before we say, you know what, Brock Bowers last year was cool, but Tyler Warren's putting up numbers here in the year 2025?
Well, and Brock Bowers, just doesn't look right at this point. Like, if you guys see him out there with the brace, he's clearly not as fluid as he has been. He got targeted today. But yeah, Tyler Warren scored 18.3 fantasy points today. To Ian's point, had the 2 rushing attempts, 91% route participation, 19% target share, 2.19 yards per route run. So yeah, I mean, Tyler Warren, you want to call him tight end 3, 4, 2, anywhere in that range. Honestly, Ian, I don't think anybody can argue with you. I will just say real quick, like, Pittman gave you 15.1 fantasy points today at 158 air yards. 51% of the team's air yards. So that was nice for Pittman. Downs, man, like, this was the game script that we really hoped would unlock Downs, but it didn't. He had a 71% route participation. I was hoping that number would be closer to like 85% in this kind of game. He had a 20% targets per route run. Like, he's still earning targets when he's on the field, but this offense is so diverse now, and so much of the design stuff gets channeled to Warren. And then Pittman is just really more the guy that's like, hey, even if he's not open, like, Daniel Jones still considers him open. He just throws it to him. It's just, so far, Downs has just been the odd man out. And the big part is not getting enough playing time. So hate to see it. Still think Josh Downs is a really good player. It just sucks. And Mitchell, 91% routes. He just took over Alec Pierce's role today. And that was the other thing I wondered, like, maybe they would mix Downs in a little bit more, and maybe AD Mitchell will be more like a 50, 60% guy. No, they just flat out gave Alec Pierce's role to AD Mitchell.
Downs did have the August hamstring injury. Maybe he's still coming back from it, but I don't know, man. Even going back last week, I kind of get back and just make sure I catch up on the film I maybe missed on a Wednesday, and like, Downs still looked freaking great out there, man. So I don't know, Warren, Pittman, JT, a lot of mouths to feed. Unfortunately, Downs has kind of been the odd man out. Really tough to trust in anything more than the wide receiver 5 at this point. So Colts are going to be home against the Raiders next week. That could be the sort of get right spot that Downs certainly could use. Will be a very nice, again, matchup here for the rest of the passing game. You don't really have to keep an eye on it, but Colts running back Tyler Goodson suffered a groin injury. So again, for you skank leaguers out there, DJ getting stranglehold on that handcuff roll, seemingly stronger than ever. The Bears took down the Raiders 25-24. Bears won outright as a 1.5-point dog. The overcash here of 47.5. Shout out Bears fans. Your favorite running back in the world, DeAndre Swift, got a go-ahead touchdown. 54-yard field goal by Daniel Carlson was blocked later. Too bad our Cowboys couldn't, join in on the NFL's newfound trend, Dwain, of blocking field goals and punts like it is their job. So shout out again to the Bears, back-to-back W's as they go ahead and head into their Week 5 bye. So wasn't the cleanest game. Mad Max Crosby was playing like a freaking just mutant alien out there. That dude is so good. Caleb Williams said after the game that he is the best player he has faced. And after seeing that performance, man, I am not going to disagree with his assessment. So Caleb, though, to his credit, only took one sack. He did fumble twice, but he didn't lose him out there. Still made some pretty high-level throws, including yet another touchdown to Roma Odunze, up to 5 on the season. So, yeah, man, didn't exactly get the rushing upside. That's really helped Caleb be one of these top 5 quarterbacks. But I'll say this, man, just again, having the sort of positive real-life performances from Caleb so far this year, on top of him racking up fantasy points, even in games where he wasn't great. And, I mean, again, if we're just ranking the quarterbacks the rest of the season that I want in fantasy, Dwayne, he's for sure in the top 8, if not in the top 5.
Yeah, man. 232 passing yards per game and 27.5 rushing yards per game. He's throwing 2 passing touchdowns per game on the season. So, yeah, Caleb is playing well. Obviously, last week was the massive blow-up game against the Cowboys that helped his yards per game. Came back down to earth a little bit this week in that category with 212. But to your point, like just finding a way like to go ahead and win this game and get the record to 2-2. I'm with you. I think it's mad props to Caleb, who's definitely maturing. I mean, only 5.7 yards per attempt this week. But again, like just gutting it out and getting the win, I do think that there's value in that as far as just like confidence, for a young player. So, yeah, I mean, we've had him inside the top 12 since week 1. And then we, I think, had him top 10. And then I think this last week, I think our consensus was like QB 9 or 8 on Caleb. So I don't know how much further we can take him, but yeah, he's definitely in the top 8.
Certainly feeling good if, again, you manage to snag him in the later rounds of your drafts. Had a couple situations, too, where, like, I don't know if they went down the books as drops, but, man, him just scrambling around and then just his ability to get velocity on his throw when he rolls out to the right, man, really is unlike anything I see at the position. And I understand there are a lot of freaks out there, but, my God, again, if we could just get the miles per hour on some of those throws, bro, it really is wild. Cole Kmet, team high 9 targets out there. I'm assuming it was a full-time role, Dwayne, with Colson up inside.
88% routes, 25% target share. Dude had 44% of the air yards. That's one more percentage point than Mr. Roma Odunze, who's been absolutely balling out. So yeah, Kmet only ended up catching 3 of those. One of them, he had a drop. He took a couple of tough hits. It was dude. Cole Kmet got banged up today. Like he was definitely, even though he came up with the 3 catches, like he was earning his paycheck just in the amount of hits that the dude took. So, Odunze, 8 targets, 4 receptions, 69 yards. So he and Caleb weren't quite on the same page like they had been, but he still came through with a touchdown. So you were fine with Roma Odunze in your lineup today. DJ Moore continues to just kind of be the odd man out here. 83% routes, 15% target share for DJ Moore. So, look, DJ Moore is eventually going to have boom games, Ian. We just know he's too good of a player not to, but like, there's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense now, and they're just not designing a lot of it for him. And Odunze just really seems to be the guy when Caleb goes into scramble drill mode. Those are the 2 guys that are on the same page. Like that's Odunze is just the guy that's working back to the football, doing all these other things. So tough for DJ Moore managers. I know he's not a guy we drafted a lot this season, but still, I thought DJ Moore would be better than this.
If I wanted to buy low-ish on anyone in this offense, though, I do think it would be DJ Moore, because I like the direction the offense is moving. I don't think DJ Moore magically isn't good at football. I think he's honestly still looked good enough with his opportunities, but you're right. They just haven't quite figured out a way to perfectly get him. Just, again, a lot of his touches are coming as a running back. Like, they're trying to design things. He's not quite in the flow of the offense. The whole offense, let's face it, hasn't exactly been hitting its flow state other than, for a good 3/4 of that Cowboys game. It would make sense that maybe after this bye, that again is coming up in week 5, bigger and better things could be ahead. That said, Dwayne, maybe, and I don't want to act like we can get a ton for DeAndre Swift out here, but man, as much as I've been someone who's kind of tried to back him up, and he's getting the volume, which is great, and he's not killing us in fantasy. I'm sure he's probably got top 20 numbers at this point. Again, scored the touchdown, caught, a handful of passes today, but I just worry that we're going to get to one of these weeks, Dwayne. He's just going to be the RB2 all of a sudden, because let's face it, nothing good is really happening when he's getting these carries.
Yep. No, DeAndre, I mean, we hate to say it, but it just is what it is. It's like we see this big utilization and there's nothing to really back it up beneath it. And it's like, I know Kalamanunga is only a 7th-round pick, so he doesn't feel like he would be a big threat. Roshan Johnson hardly playing at all this season, doesn't feel like he would be a big threat, but I'm with you. I feel like DeAndre Swift's value is, like, so fragile. He gave you 16 fantasy points today, and maybe we shouldn't feel this way because we just talked about how the arrows pointed up and all these things are really great, and maybe, regression hits and DeAndre Swift's fantasy points catch up, with the utilization that he's had, but man, I don't know. I've just seen it for too long now. And just watching him, Ian, like he's fine, but and maybe it's because there's so many good backs in the league right now. But it's like once I watch Bucky Irving and James Cook and these guys all day long, and then I see DeAndre Swift, I'm like, oh, there's DeAndre Swift. Like, just it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, man. I mean, he's getting snaps. That's literally all he's doing. And sometimes you get a few fantasy points with it, and you got that this week. But I'm with you. I'm scared to death of DeAndre Swift.
And I got to pull up the all 22 because there was like the first drive of the game. Caleb made a couple guys miss and like he was running and then he tipped it out to Swift. Swift, if he would have caught that in full stride, I feel like might have had like a chance to, make one guy miss and then go ahead and take it a very long way. So we'll see what happens there. Again, not killing you. So don't give the man away. But if anyone out there does think he is this, rest of season upside RB2 potentially, I would not be against trying to get a wide receiver that could meet that value. Over for the Raiders, just another very, very tough performance, Dwain, for anyone in the Geno Smith top 10 QB club. He's had 2 very good games this year, but then 2 equally horrible ones. 3 interceptions in this one. Every single one of them was intended for Jacoby Myers. That duo now has 4 interceptions on those targets this season. That is the most in the league. Second place is Jerry Jeudy and Joe Flacco with 3. So, yeah, man, again, rough performance. And I just think it's even worse because you're at home. You're facing a bad Bears defense that already had a ton of guys injured as well. It really is a situation where there's not too much consistency going on in this Raiders passing game, Dwain. Trey Tucker came crashing back to earth. Jacoby Myers has been fine. We've talked about Brock Bowers a little bit before in the Tyler Warren conversation, just not exactly looking healthy. But, maybe just a slight downgrade for everyone involved here, man. Like, look, they're in Indianapolis next week. I don't think it's the toughest matchup in the world, but who's to say Geno's not going to try to go full Geno and just force a couple more passes downfield and turn it over?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I was kind of hesitant to move Geno up too much in the ranks. Like I am actually someone that thinks Geno's a really good quarterback, but really the Raiders drop back rate over expected was not like crazy. It was really actually below average. It was like -2%. They've just had some weird game scripts. And today they get ahead. What do? They passed the ball 21 times and they ran the ball 31 times, which that's the main story. We'll get to Genty here in a second. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the Raiders are necessarily this pass heavy offense that everybody thinks they are. Now, next week against the Colts, they're probably going to have to throw the ball. Like, I mean, the Colts are a good offense. So Geno's going to be fine. I think he's a mid-range QB2 that can be like that borderline QB1. So I think he's probably, what we've seen. We kind of get some up weeks, kind of get some down weeks, depends on how the game strip kind of goes. I mean, I'll just say this, man. Brock Bowers doesn't look right. Like, they need Brock Bowers healthy. A healthy Brock Bowers will help out Geno a lot, but right now we just don't have that.
Even with Michael Mayer's sideline, another game where Brock Bowers is disappointing. 5 catches for 46 scoreless yards. So again, still going to be someone that we're ranking top 3, top 4 tight ends. The second we move him down any lower, of course, he'll get right back on track in a hurry. Hopefully, again, that knee just gets a little bit healthier as the season goes on. But yes, the star of the show, arguably of the day, was Mr. Ashton Genty. $138 and a touchdown on the ground. Also caught 2 passes for 17 yards and another 2 touchdowns. Those are 3 scores for those counting at home. So mentioned earlier, he did lose a fumble, but it's really tough to kind of blame him. He got just absolutely plastered by a 340-pound defensive tackle as soon as he touched the ball. Managed to, again, really get going after that. So still, Dwain had to work for a lot of his yards. I mean, 128 of the 138 rushing yards still came after contact, but saw that one-hitter quitter home run speed on the 64-yard touchdown run. Looked every bit like the allegedly generational back that he was drafted at number 6 overall to be.
Yeah, I mean, 33.5 PPR points today. So Puka beat that but
Okay.
that's fantastic performance. 85% of the snaps, 72% of the rushing attempts, 82% routes, 56% of the 2-minute offense. So really more back in that week 1 role. We had Zamir White inactive for this one. Dylan Laube was active, but 0% of the snaps. It was Raheem Mostert who actually got to play today, and he was the running back too, but only played 15% of the snaps and only had an 18% route participation. They also let Genty return to his upright stance in the backfield. Way to go, Chip Kelly. So yeah, like, dude, I mean, just great performance from Genty. We had been talking about, hey, on film, guys, like Genty still looking really good, running with power, just weren't a lot of holes. Today, he happened to have enough to work with. Like Ian said, still a lot of this work coming after contact. Caught 2 touchdowns. He had 2 targets, 2 receptions for 17 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then the long rushing touchdown you guys probably saw all over Twitter. So yeah, Genty looking absolutely fantastic. This Raiders offensive line is not suddenly going to be better. Like the problems are still there for Genty, but man, if we can get him out here and he's playing, in these passing down scenarios, that's what we talked about. Like it's just hurts. Like it's the difference, right? Between being in a role more like Quinshon Judkins, more like what we talked about with Trey Benson earlier, even Jordan Mason, or being in a role more like what I don't want to call it CMC because he doesn't get that target share, but being in a role more like Jonathan Taylor, right? Where Jonathan Taylor doesn't get a ton of targets, but he never leaves the field. Omarion Hampton, his fellow rookie counterpart, are also in a role like this. So this is the biggest thing you could hope for. Massive fantasy performance, but also all the underlying utilization was back, and he really was an every down back for all intents and purposes in this game.
And it was the pass down work that really had us most frustrated these last few weeks. Yep. It was like, why are we coming off the field for all these third downs for Zamir White? Not today, and it was great to see. So tacked on another 7 missed tackles for us. He now has 26 on the season. That is tied with Bucky Irving for the second most in the league, behind only Bijan Robinson. So I will say shout out to Raheem Mostert, still looking pretty spry. Had a nice little 37-yard rush in his own right. So I wouldn't be surprised, Dwain, if we see Genty maybe a little bit limited in practice, as, hey, this dude loves to finish his run strong. Looked like he maybe banged up his shoulder a little bit on the sideline. Didn't cause him to miss more than a few plays. But again, similar to Saquon, just something to keep an eye out for there. The Chiefs took down the Ravens 37-20. KC winning outright as a 2.5-point home dog, overcashed here at 48.5. So Lamar Jackson did suffer a hamstring injury at the end, but guys, it was already 30-13 Kansas City even before Lamar left the game. So I thought the best that Patrick Mahomes and company have looked all season long, and really wasn't even close. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 touchdowns through the air for Mr. Mahomes, 1 each to Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith-Schuster, and even Isaiah Pacheco for good measure. So again, really was spreading the wealth around. But that said, Dwain, there was a clear number 1 target earner, and his name was Xavier Worthy back. And man, did he look good. Really, man, they were getting him the ball from the beginning. He got like an unnecessary roughness penalty on Marlon Humphrey that scared the crap out of me because I thought maybe he was going to get injured on his first touch. Popped back up, and dude, the way the Chiefs treated it, like they were up 3-4 touchdowns in the fourth, and they were still throwing screens to Worthy. So chipped in 38 rushing yards, looks as fast as ever. I wound up this morning, Dwain, I don't know about you, but when I was kind of going through lineups where I had a close-ish start decision, I just had a tough time leaving Xavier Worthy on my bench in more predicaments than not. I'll say this, man, in week 5, I am starting Xavier Worthy in every single lineup that I have the chance to.
Yeah, 17.1 fantasy points for Worthy today. Only 59% of the snaps because they're trying to protect him a little bit, but he played 70% route participation. That's a number that could easily go up. Led the team with a 23% target share, 29% targets per route run. So even though he wasn't out there in that massive full-time role yet, still getting the targets when he was available on the field. 136 air yards. That was 55% for the Chiefs. Had a 17-point average depth of target today, 1 RPO target, 1 screen target, 2.96 yards per route run, 2 rushing attempts for 38 yards. Yeah, Xavier Worthy looked really, really good today. And the odd man out because of it was Mr. Tyquan Thornton. His route participation fell to 38%. Juju hanging around with 83%. I don't know, whatever. Kelsey had an 80% route participation with a 14% target share, just still not earning targets. You mentioned Hollywood Brown catching the touchdown. He had 12.8 PPR points, but only a 63% route participation for Mr. Marquise Hollywood Brown today. So Yeah, this offense is all about Worthy, man. Like, I don't want to mess with any of those other dudes right now. If you want to keep Thornton stashed, like at the end of your bench, I think he's clearly still shown that he can be the playmaker. He had another
Yeah.
touchdown today. But yeah, like I don't want to start Kelsey. I don't want to start Hollywood. I'm not touching Juju. This is all about Xavier Worthy until we get Mr. Rasheed Rice back here in a few weeks.
Yeah, good to see Mahomes racking up his fantasy points. Actually, through the air, he entered this week as the NFL's leading rusher at QB. Certainly something I'm sure that he and Andy Reid weren't overly thrilled about. So again, Kansas City next week, going to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars on Monday Night Football. Worthy Mahomes get them in lineups of all shapes and sizes. Again, as we kind of mentioned before, New England, Washington, and Kansas City continue to stand out as the three most muddled backfield committees. So it's good to see Pacheco find the end zone. He is the recommended start, but still not going to be someone that's again cracking the top 24 for now. Right. With the Ravens, we did hear from Pro Football Talk after the game that Jackson suffered a strained hamstring. Quote, "It felt like a grab." John Harbaugh said, "I don't have any updates on the seriousness. It doesn't look like it's season ending by any stretch for any of those guys," because that includes Lamar, left tackle Ronnie Stanley with an ankle, linebacker Roquan Smith with a hamstring, cornerback Marlon Humphrey with a calf, and also cornerback Nate Wiggins with an elbow. So again, this defense was already an underperforming group, and now you're taking away three more starters potentially on top of the dudes that were already out. We have the Ravens facing off against the Texans next week, and Dwain, I'm hesitant to expect anything out of that Texans offense other than from Nico Collins and maybe at this point Woody Marks. But man, really is only so many backups the Ravens can put in there and still hope to field even a decent crew. So all the injuries going on, again, sucks that it happened with Lamar. We didn't get a chance to see him pick up more fantasy points in the fourth quarter. Derrick Henry with the negative game script couldn't get much going on. I'm mostly inclined just to kind of write this one off as an unfortunate, series of events. Shout out Lemony Snicket. But my one question for you, Dwain, was Isaiah Likely active, but didn't really see him popping up much of anywhere in the box score.
Yeah, 50% routes versus 58 for Andrews. So really slid right back nearly into the role that he had to end the season, just didn't get targeted. The only thing I'll say I'm with you. Let's just throw this game out the window for the Ravens. Henry, the one thing I'll say is like, we've seen him now in 3 out of 4 games actually fall victim to a game script. Now fumbles obviously have impacted us. We're not freaking out. Derrick Henry's still obviously like a top 6 fantasy, top 8, top 9 option. Gonna have plenty of weeks where we're like, oh my God, Derrick Henry was the running back 1 on the slate. But it's just one of these things where when you don't have the passing down work and the Ravens are 1-3 and their defense can't stop anyone, like they're just a little bit more prone to these kind of game scripts this year so far. We'll see if that continues to hold up. But when they get in these shootouts, dude, it's Justice Hill had a great run at the end of the game. Like, dude, talk about not giving up. Dude, he scored 28.7 fantasy points today, Ian. Justice Hill, 59% of the snaps because of the game script. And so 40% for Henry. So Ian and I were having behind the scenes kind of talk, like, because one of the things with the utilization score is you have these guys that don't have the pass down work, and the model knows that like how valuable that work is. And it holds guys like Henry and David Montgomery down. And after week 1, I was like, man, I'm still trying to figure out a way, like when you're on these quality offenses to give a little bit of a bump. But we don't just want to do anything. It's got to like make sense. It needs to correlate to more future fantasy success, all those things. And now look at this. Like we saw it today with Monty. We've seen it 3 out of 4 games with Henry where, hey man, when you don't have that role and these games get sideways on you, when your defense is playing like the Ravens, it can hurt even a very, very good player like Derrick Henry.
And I just couldn't believe, man, like when Lamar goes out and you bring in Cooper Rush, the Ravens really went down with Cooper Rush throwing the ball away on 4th and 2. I'll give the ball to Derrick Henry 15 straight times and try to do my comeback that way, man. Like, come on here with that. So you mentioned it, though. Justice Hill, all due respect, bro, 71-yard touchdown run late, also chipped in 41, another touchdown as a receiver. Continues to really be the profile of, what you can hope to be after tearing an Achilles. He really has come back very strong in his career. Love to see that. That's going to take us to Packers and Cowboys, but first, our DraftKings closing lines. Big games, big moments, and even bigger upside this week. I have teamed up with DraftKings Pick 6 to give you a new way to get in on the action. With Pick 6, you ride the upside by making simple predictions. Will a player score more or less than the number listed? You put your picks together, and the more you hit, the bigger your payout. And right now, there's an incredible offer. New DraftKings Pick 6 customers play $5 on your first pick set and get $50 in bonus picks. That's right. All you need to do is play $5 on your first entry, and you'll get $50 in bonus picks instantly. So don't miss your shot to ride the upside. Download DraftKings Pick 6, get in on all the action, and sign up using my promo code FANTASYLIFE. Thanks to DraftKings Pick 6 for sponsoring this. Let's make this season one to remember, as was Sunday Night Football. Dwain, a tie. First one, I think, since 2022, they said 40-40, just like kissing your sister. But you know what? I think Jerry Jones will go ahead and take that tie versus having to watch Micah Parsons have a walk-off game-ending sack or really doing anything out there. So, Dwain, you did hit your parlay with a questionable Micah Parsons sack. I'm looking right now. But yeah, they went ahead and gave it to him officially in the box score. So good job by you, my friend. We're in a predicament here, Dwain, because usually we start with the winners, but there is no winner. So I guess credit to the Cowboys for covering 6.5 point dogs. The over is 46.5. Both teams almost got there in their own right. So very, very fun time. I'll say this, man, without CeeDee Lamb in the fold too, it was great to see that Dak Prescott in this passing game, and then also missing 2 starting offensive linemen were still capable of putting on this type of performance. I didn't personally think that they had it in them.
Dude, Dak played tremendous. My whole family will still say that Dak Prescott sucks tomorrow, but I thought this was one of the better games I've seen Dak play in a long time, Ian. I mean, the Packers have a good defense. The Packers have been a good defense. I get it. They had a letdown game against the Browns, but not because they just got steamrolled, by their offense. The Browns defense held them in that game. So, I mean, I don't know. I look at this game and I'm just like, this was a good performance by Dak. Cowboys remain a pass-heavy team. He scored 30.9 fantasy points today, Dak did, with 319 yards through the air, 3 passing touchdowns. Really, really good bounce-back performance from him, man, because the yards have been there, but the touchdowns haven't been there. And then, obviously, with him doing what he's doing, George Pickens was the man tonight. 29% target share for Pickens. He gave you 33.4 PPR points. So 3 points behind Mr. Puka Nacua, right there with Ashton Genty. So those are your 3 top performers, I think, for the week that we've hit on. Have been Puka, along with Genty, and then George Pickens, Omari, and Hampton probably right in there behind that with 27.5. So yeah, great game from Pickens. Ended up with 134 receiving yards. He had 161 air yards in this one, Ian. And he dropped a slant route that, probably would have been another 20 yards on top of this. So big game for Pickens. The rest of the passing attack was pretty much business as usual. Ferguson was the number 2 in the offense. He gave you 17 PPR points tonight.
Pickens just absolute beast at the catch point. Again, always been a little bit underrated with what he can do after the catch as well. We saw that on, again, that what really should have been the game-winning touchdown, that curl route that he went ahead and broke for 6. So Pickens in this matchup, guys, is already, I think, like our consensus wide receiver 6 team. Next week against the Jets, Jets. Maybe could be catching that Sauce Gardner shadow. We'll get into the matchup stuff a little bit more. That would be a reason to potentially not shoot him up too high in the ranks. But, man, even with that potentially going on, I have a hard time thinking that with bye weeks, he's going to be outside that top 20, continue to be starting him again for as long as CeeDee is sidelined. And even when CeeDee's back, man, I don't think it's going to be taken away from Pickens, as honestly we were already starting to see in week 2 at least. Really is a situation where, similar to the Rams, man, I think Dak Prescott's going to continue to consolidate everything around his big 2. Shout out to Jalen Tolbert. Dwain made one of the, I would say, next gen stats has a thing where they kind of rate the most improbable completions. I'm guessing that Dak Prescott heaved to Tolbert down the sideline is going to be near the top of the list, if not at the very top. So that was cool from Tolbert. Jake Ferguson snapped his scoreless streak, guys. He went 124 straight targets from that wild card game that Dwain balled his eyes out at until this very Sunday night when he finally found the end zone again. So again, not someone who's going to be giving you these 40-yard chunk gains or anything, but hey, in full PPR, we don't need him. Jake Ferguson continuing to work his way up into the top 5 or 6 or so at the position. Also, Javonte Williams, Dwain, balling out. Dude. Miles Sanders had an ankle injury, which I guess impacted a little bit. But, dude, at some point, it's real. Javonte Williams is a fantasy football RB1. How about it?
Yeah, 19 fantasy points in this game. He gave you 77% of the design rushing attempts. That was 20 on the night. 85 rushing yards. Punched in a rushing touchdown. So did Dak. That was part of Dak's performance tonight. I forgot to mention that earlier. It sounds like the Cowboys have talked about potentially doing that more with Dak, but he still only had 4% of the design rushing attempts in this particular game. But yeah, man. If Sanders is injured, I would say that does open the door for, like, if you are in a skank league, maybe it is time to carry Jaden Blue just to see what happens if he is the running back too. But yeah, Javonte, man, completely locked in. Looking at him real quick on the season now, Ian, averaging 19.2 fantasy points per game. So, like, yeah, you haters out there are eventually just going to have to give up on this Javonte thing. Like, you're just going to have to give it up because it's just looking bad at this point. It's averaging 5 yards per carry, guys. I mean, he's got yards after contact. What is he at on that
3.4.
now?
Derrick Henry level.
Yeah, dude. Like he's doing everything he needs to do. He's got an 11% explosive rush rate, so above the league average of 9%. Javonte's playing good, man. He does not look like, I get it, guys. He's not the same Javonte we had in his rookie season, but like for the injuries he's gone through, like he looks as good as he can look, I think, at this point. So
85, 90% of that Javonte with a better role than he had in that offense, and a better offense is very much fine here in Fantasyland. Again, Cowboys at the Jets next week. Josh Jacobs, star, one of the stars of the day for the Packers. Obviously, Romeo Doubs doing his thing as well. But yeah, Jacobs, $157 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Great to see him doing his thing. He suffered a cut on his knee, which took him out of a couple plays later. Got to see some Emmanuel Wilson, who would be the recommended handcuff, but no reason to believe Jacobs will be missing any time. The Packers do have a week 5 bye. Jacobs will continue to be an upside RB1 after that. But yeah, man, otherwise, star of the day was one Romeo Doubs. Caught not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns. Dwain, the Cowboys slayer, had in 2 career games against Dallas, now over 200 receiving yards with 4 touchdowns to his name. So saw Matthew Golden get going a little bit too, 58 yards. Tucker Kraft had 56 yards, got stopped at the 1 yard line, not once, but twice. Really, more than anything, just was a very good, solid performance from the entire Packers offense, run game, pass game. Now, it is the Cowboys defense. Let's face it, everyone has their best offensive day of the season when they play the Cowboys. But yeah, man, Packers are a wagon.
Yeah, man. 29.8 PPR points for Romeo Doubs. If this man could play the Cowboys every week, he would be a Hall of Famer because he absolutely owns them. He had a 22% target share today. You mentioned Matthew Golden, 72% route participation, came up with a real clutch catch, on the final drive of the game where clearly Jordan Love's looking to him. But 17% target share, man. It's kind of where he's been. We're getting a little more playing time. Haven't necessarily seen the breakout game. I thought it was pretty hilarious. He hit the over on his receiving prop on the first play, comes back like 2 drives later and loses yards and goes back under the prop. Everybody was tilting. He did end up paying off for you guys. He got there. He had 58 receiving yards. I think the prop was at 46 yards for the game, depending on where you got it at. So yeah, Tucker Kraft also, nearly had the touchdown, went down at the 1 yard line. Still came through with 5 receptions for you guys. 10.6 fantasy points, 14% target share. Tend to think Kraft's probably still dealing a little bit with that knee injury, Ian. He was on the injury report again. I think he was cleared off of it at the end of this week, but something to keep an eye on. But I think Tucker Kraft, obviously a guy we love. And Josh Jacobs, yeah, man, dude, 31.7 fantasy points. So he looks like the number 4. Is that the number 4 guy this week? Man, we had multiple guys dropping 30 burgers this week in fantasy. We did tell you, Josh Jacobs, 2 weeks in a row, it was time to buy low, and that this would be the absolute moment you would not be able to buy low anymore on him. And yeah, so that's over. Now he's on buy. So we'll see him another week after that.
Be curious to see when Christian Watson could potentially get back. It sounded like that was going to be more of a, late October, November thing. So I wouldn't say week 5. Again, Matthew Golden, he had that 46-yard catch where both him and Dontavian Wicks were open. Golden just said, no, I'm giving that one to my fantasy managers, not you, Dontavian. So look, I'm not going to pretend like Romeo Doubs can go out there and catch 3 touchdowns every week. Also, we're not used to seeing Jordan Love, Dwain, throw the ball 43 times. But again, I know at least when we were talking about it, and you, even yourself as someone who's not as high on Romeo Doubs as I am and all that, you still had him as a wide receiver 4, I believe, in your ranks. Matthew Golden a little bit higher. So, hey, guess what? Having wide receivers that are full-time that we have right now in this Green Bay offense, we can live with that. Now, again, the fact that Romeo Doubs did all that and only had, 8 targets out there in a game where Jordan Love threw the ball that many times. Like, it's going to be tough to expect anything he's not going to have a better performance down the road. And, the consistency is going to come and go. So maybe just more than anything, Dwain, like a little bit of cold water on the Matthew Golden potential breakout. Cause again, it's not like we're going to come out of this bye really ranking any of these guys inside the top 30.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is like Golden's getting the playing time right now. If Christian Watson comes back into the mix, that could kind of be nasty because we are still seeing Dontavian Wicks getting playing time as well. But I still tend to lean into like, hey, rookies, blossoming like as the season goes. He's their first round pick. Like, I'm not going to overreact to it too much, but no, we certainly haven't seen like anything from a target share perspective that makes us just go like, wow, it's already happening for Golden. So in my opinion, like, you want to keep him on your roster, but he's really a boom bust wide receiver 4. Like, we can't really force Matthew Golden to be like a wide receiver 3. Like, he's going to have to like earn his way up into that spot, which is, I think he's a boom bust wide receiver 4 right now until he shows us that he can break out.
Jaden Reed estimated return in November as well. That will also complicate things, but we will worry about that then. And accordingly, guys, to wrap up this edition of the Fantasy Life Show, we appreciate you tuning in. As always, if you like the show, then like the show. Always helps to get a subscribe and or rating as well if you're into that kind of thing. So appreciate you guys for joining. I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, take care, everybody.